Frothies back again. Barney and Daggy with you to talk about round 4 of National Rugby League competition. Barney, what's news, my friend?
No, not much, mate. Got most of the kitchen in over the weekend, which is...
How's it looking?
Yeah, just got to get some bench tops in and stuff. Should be good. But, just working away. Watched a lot of footy. It was a really good, entertaining weekend of footy again.
It was good entertaining. Well, it's been a good season.
Yeah, absolutely it has.
I can only think of 3 games I haven't enjoyed, and they've mainly involved certain teams. But, no, it has been. It's, once again, I think, 6 out of 8 games were still alive in the last 5 to 10 minutes, which is what you want to see. The officiating showed its head a bit this week.
Yeah, it's probably the worst round that we've seen so far, with some really interesting decisions on calling back tries and all the rest of that stuff. Definitely affected one, but it probably affected 2 games at least, results-wise, maybe 3, but we'll get to all of that as we go through it. Any big takeaways before we get into the news and all that sort of drivel? No, I think you've seen a little. Obviously, you've seen an evening up of the competition over the entirety.
Even.
Yeah, absolutely. There's not really, even the teams like Newcastle 2 weeks ago, I think a lot of people had said that they're not going to go anywhere in the next couple of weeks.
I was going to save this for our game, but I actually want to wrap Newcastle because I'm the first to put their boot into that team. I have been for 4 years now. Yeah. And, geez, they're trying hard this year. They're trying really hard.
Absolutely.
And whether they're overperforming or whether they're living up to what they should have been.
No, I think they're overperforming, to be honest. Because realistically, they're a bit undermanned.
Yeah, well,
especially
absolutely. In terms of what they're missing,
well.
Absolutely overperforming. I know they're only playing the Tigers, but to do what they did last week with 14 blokes or whatever they had, and then to do it again, well, they were pretty dominant in the end.
Yeah, massively.
On Sunday, so we'll get to that. But I can't fault the effort in any of their games. And
same with the Warriors.
Could have nearly won the other 2 that they lost. And same with the Warriors.
Absolutely. Yeah, they've gone from being a team that basically gave up after 40 or 50 minutes of every game and just got run over in the last half to probably being better than most teams at the back end of games in the last, at least the last 2 weeks.
And even I'm just thinking of teams at the bottom. Titans' effort's been there. Yep. You could argue they're unlucky a little bit in that game. If not necessarily the better team, they tried hard enough, and they lost their 2 best players. 2
of their spine players, yeah.
And well, the Tigers we'll talk about when we get there. But in terms of what their forward backs producing, they're matching anyone else. They're just the issues everywhere else in the field.
Then you come out and see a team like Parramatta who hasn't had yet to have a win for the year, and they come out and play close to the best game of footy that anyone's sort of put out there statistically wise, and just effort on effort to get them through and win Golden Point.
Yeah, they'd been on the map. They'd probably been, even though they'd lost those games, they were always in those games, and I was impressed. I was actually impressed by them. But we'll get. I think we should save the specifics for the next 2 hours. But yeah, I think it's been good footy. It's been entertaining footy and close footy, and that's what you want. There's no. I know some of our mates have still found reasons to whinge, but you take it with what it is.
Everyone
entertainment
will.
At the end of the day, it's an entertainment product, and it's been entertaining. So cool.
Yeah, you're never going to get everything right. It's just the way it is. No human is infallible in their judgments as a ref or linesman or anything like that. But even the players, so, there's more mistakes made by players than there are by the refs during the 80 minutes. So
yeah. Let's get all the housekeeping out of the way early before I start to stumble over my words in about usually 15 minutes' time. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, everywhere like that. Thanks to everyone that's jumped on the YouTube channel and left some comments, Chris and Queenslander and all the usual suspects there. You can find us on Spotify if you want to listen while walking the dog or in the shower or whatever it is people do. Or the car, I suppose, is when normally people listen to it.
Probably a better spot than the shower.
If you want to watch us in the shower, that's your business too. But and vice versa, you can also check out Rugby League merch to find some of these sexy hats. There's beer steins, rugbyleaguemerch.com that is. Beer steins, shirts, hats, coasters, all sorts of good stuff there. Go check that out. And PCTC's chugging along. If you're not on board with that, get on board next year. But all that being said, some news we'll talk about. I guess the big talking point this year is the signing this week is the signing stuff. We'll save the major one to last, but just quickly, Kosi's extended to 2025 for the Warriors. Tuipulotu, same for Manly. Ken Mamalo's gone to the Titans effective immediately.
Right.
I don't think he was named this week, so that's a slow process.
They got the bye this week.
Oh yeah, so it doesn't really matter. Patrick Herbert was released immediately to. I believe they've said it's compassionate grounds, which I suppose they'll say just to get a release. And but Marlowe's gone up there. They're also bringing back another ex-Tiger, McKaylee, coming back from Super League, who was a very, very capable soldier here, but he's apparently been tearing up over there.
Yep.
The reports say so, bolstering up their front row stocks. Who their front row has been good, but maybe if you can, get Tino back into that lock position as we've spoken about, maybe it's something to offer there. But I imagine it's more a bench spot, maybe.
Yeah, it'd be a bench rotation
spot. Isaiah Yeo has extended 2027, so he'll be wrapped up by Penrith, which seems to be the story this year. Is that a lot of clubs are trying to sign players for these 3, 4, 5 years instead of just extending. So that's very interesting.
Well, it makes sense, especially with some of your more significant ball players in your team, to lock them in early, so you know the bits and pieces that you need to fit around them. So
yeah, and. The big one, Joseph Swaihi, has signed a $1.6 million a year deal for 3 years, I believe, with Rugby Australia after starting 2025. There's been all sorts of carry on, so we won't spend heaps of money on it. They've spent heaps of money on it, heaps of time on it. What have you made of it all? Yeah,
well, it's an interesting one considering that his first option was rugby union to begin with, from what I've been led to believe, and that. They basically said you can have him for $100,000 a year for 3 years when he signed with the Roosters at the start, and rugby walked away from him, and now it's turned around and they've bumped the offer up by $1.5 million. So it probably would have been much better for rugby union to lock him away early and work on him as a youngster. But no, mate. Realistically, if he's grown up playing rugby union. There's a big lure there playing international rugby for a couple of years. A World Cup on the horizon. That I think that one's in Australia too, is it not? But
yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so it's a big showpiece place to put your name up in lights, and obviously that's what he's working towards. So good luck to him.
Well, at the end of the day, that's what I say. Good luck to him. If someone's meant to offer you 1.6, who am I to tell you you're doing the wrong thing? Like, honestly, go and make money while you can. I assume he'll be back in league at some point.
We're still here for next year as well, I believe. So
with all the rubbish going about, like, really, rugby are a dying game, despite what rugby want to tell you, Australian rugby especially. And if it is, whether it's throw at stump, where they tend to believe it's going to make a difference, I don't follow the game well enough to know. So
you'll probably get a few people to watch a game here and there.
And they'll watch one, and that'll be it. And then he'll be into obscurity for 3 years, and then return. So isn't that what happened with Sonny Bill and Benji? In 2003, 4, 5, I loved rugby. I used to watch rugby more than I'd watch league at the time, but they've done so much damage to that game.
Late 90s, early 2000s, I was watching pretty much every international that Australia was involved in.
I could still name like the 03 team. I couldn't tell you a single. I'm sure rugby fans will think that's on me, but it's also on the rugby for.
Played a bit of it in high school, but Australia rugby hasn't been competitive with New Zealand and even South Africa at times for the last, 10 or 15 years. So obviously it's just natural that the interest wanes from the general public.
Yeah. I don't even know whether they're on Stan or something now as well, which doesn't help. But that's a reflection of no one else wanted to give him any money because no one watched. Anyway, good luck to him, end of the day. Like, who really, we were getting that upset about it?
He'll make some money. He'll put some highlights on his reel, and we'll see what he does up. He may extend and stay in rugby for the rest of his career, but
if he ends up playing fullback and captain the Wallabies for 20 years, good luck, more power to him.
His choice, yeah.
I don't know what else it means to the rest. I think Cam Murray, Crichton, Cooler are all sort of the other ex-rugby blokes that have been thrown around, and none of them seem particularly interested.
Well, I think
Murray said that
Murray's like the lifeblood of Souths at the moment, so I don't think you get Murray out of it.
I think Cam Murray basically said something like, I'd be a fool not to at least listen to the
Consider
offer.
Consider it,
and obviously Guzzi, hopefully we're seeing him back on the field more than anything, so see what comes from any of that. No other real speculative stuff around except for the suggestion that the Eels are looking for a fullback, and they've told Gutho they want an X-factor player. apparently it's been reading Gutho's words today. Apparently it's been overblown. Okay. It was more the case of, hey, if we hire someone, if we go looking to the market, are you get upset about it? And he sort of said, no, do your best.
Well, it only makes sense. It's good management, really, from the Eels. I understand it's probably not the best way to be front, He could have done it sneakily behind his back, which is probably even worse for the player and the club, and there'll be a lot of speculation around. But fullback, you need that pace. Like you can see most of the time when blokes get to 30, just over the other side of 30, they start moving into the wings and back onto the centres, and they start bringing the younger fellas through playing fullback because you need that explosive pace. Teddy's still got it at the... Gutho's still... He never was right at the top with that explosive pace, but he still does do enough to get through the line. But, yeah, obviously if you could find someone that tears open the defensive line 5 or 6 times a game, you'd be a fool not to look at
I think the next question is who that is exactly is...
That's a very good question.
It's the question, but on that, Jack Whiten's declared himself a free agent, at least for now. Going to open market, I imagine the favourites will be along the lines of the Dolphins. The Tigers got $2 million to spend. We could probably use him. Actually, we 100% could use him. Or maybe Parra fits that, but I couldn't imagine Parra can afford $1 million with 3 blokes alone.
Wouldn't think so now.
No. All on 850 plus your 2 front rowers.
No, I dare say Parramatta's whole X Factor thing that they're talking about would be to bring a kid in that's not 18, 19, 20.
I think he's someone like a Cooler or a KO Weeks or someone.
Tessie New, if you were going to go and grab someone from somewhere else. Something like that. And then work him beside Gutherson for a year or two, and then, they can swap between wing and fullback for the next couple of years. I don't think it's something to...
RTS name's come up a bit, but the telly reported today, I believe, that his preference would be Japanese rugby.
Yeah, I don't think he's coming back. He's just superannuation time now for RTS.
You can get $1 million over in Japan. So
probably get close to 2.
I think it's like a 14 or 16 round game season. So good luck to him. So any other thoughts on any of the news or anything you've heard or any scuttlebutt?
No, not really. But yeah, as you said, I think Gutherson will end up at centre or wing in the next year or two, and they're trying to find a young fella come through. Well, who that is, who knows?
Petticene's re-signed as well, but
Whiten's an interesting one for me because I'm not sure there's many teams in the comp that play him as a half, to be honest.
Well,
apart from a couple of the ones...
Perfect replacement for Swahi at centre.
Yeah. Apart from a couple of the...
find some room under the sombrero.
The teams that are really struggling that might play him at 5'8", but we've both said it for years now that in our opinion, he's a better 13 or a better centre, and I'm pretty sure he fits into most squads in centre, to be honest.
He could almost fit in as a fullback at some.
Defensive centre, he's fantastic. His defence is really strong. He runs good, strong lines, and if he doesn't have to think, I think he's a much better player. You see, most weeks when he has to think about it, he ends up kicking 4 kicks dead and 1 over the sideline on the full and making simple errors. So I think he's a much better option of just being given a job and run the ball hard and tackle hard and be done with it.
Yeah.
But
I guess what will be for all of that. Judiciary news. Paulo, Nanai and Whiten, speaking of, all got 2 games.
Yep.
I think that was the major stuff from the week. Look, the Nanai one, I watched back the highlights again today when I was jotting notes, and when someone's upside down, it's never a good thing, but I think it looked, I don't want to say it, but it looked a little bit worse than it was.
Yeah, he did sort of pull his head and shoulders.
He sort of went up
back towards the ground.
Tucking, but I suppose it shouldn't be on a bloke who's upside down to have to think. So, so that was what it was. Injury news, Cooler, speaking of him as well, MCL, 4 to 6 weeks. Tessie New, 4 weeks with an MCL, which may be a bigger loss than I thought when I was looking at the previews this week. Yep. Tuolungi, 4 to 6. Tamo is having scans on an injured foot as well. And Sean O'Sullivan, a ruptured pec. He goes to surgery tomorrow. And looking at 3 or 4 months there, and that's couldn't come at a worse time, I would suggest.
Very interesting now, yeah. I'd assume Katoa now probably moves back into 7 and Milford stays at 6.
Yeah.
They really did seem to lose their way when he came off the field. I know they scored a couple of minutes later, but they were already in that position that they'd been put in to score those points, and then their kicking game just went right out the window with Milford as your prime kicker. That's generally not a great option, and I haven't seen a great array of kicking game from Katoa either, apart from sort of the short kick in and around the line. So, there may be...
to see what you take. I assume Milford is doing a long kicking.
I would say Milford does the long kicking, but
go backwards.
Don't think it's going to be very... Well, it hasn't
I shouldn't say go backwards. I mean, like, work back from there.
Hasn't been very precise from Milford for quite a few years, to be honest. He generally just kicks it as hard as he can and tries to get it down the other end of the field. He's not putting it into a corner like some of them do. I'm sure he will at times, but I think their game management may be lacking a little bit over the next couple of months.
But their blueprint is generally through the middle, forward base anyway. They get Marshall King back, so interested to see how they go this week. And we may as well get into our reviews. Anything else?
No, not for me.
How did Supercoach go for you?
Had a good week, actually. Yeah.
Nico
brought Nico back in and captained him. So there's 360 points out of one player. Yeah. I was going to lose every game until the last game of the weekend, but
I lost every game after the last game of the weekend, so it was good.
I did say it's probably not a bad option to bring him in and leave Cleary and him and rotate them for the rest of the season. So hopefully they both stay fit and they'll be my two halfbacks for the rest of the season. But
we'll get to him later, I suppose. I'm just trying to think I've had a bunch of questions from Danon, but is there anything Supercoach-wise that's jumping out to you this week at this early stage, or you haven't had time to study the...
I haven't had a real good look at it. Cooler's in my team, so
Hoskins has been named to start. He's about 450.
Yep.
He should keep making money.
That was only his first game on the weekend, so you've still got another game to have another look. Just make sure he doesn't go down injured or...
Yeah, everything just on Nico. He's going to make money, so
it looks like
if you want him, just go get him because you're not getting any cheaper. He'll be $1,000,000 soon.
Yeah, well, if he gets anything over 30 or 40 next week, or this week coming, then he'll be making money the week after us, which is pretty unusual for a bloke at 900 and something thousand. But, the Hoskins does look like a really promising option. Another one of your Hopgood types that just works all day. Runs that really hard line as well and was put away for that try by Cleary. So he looks like a promising option there in the back row. But it's really about trying to manage your money now. I think you're looking at 2 or 3 weeks' time offloading some of these bottom dollar wingers, centres that you brought in and trying to either upgrade or downgrade depending on whether you need money or...
Can't Pereira and Warbrick get to your 400s and then you can splash elsewhere.
Whether you need money or you need to put money back into your team or you need to buy someone, that's where you're going to be sort of generating some of that cash and some of your edge back rowers that you may have started with. Even Stefano is probably going to peak in about 2 weeks' time, I would imagine. And he'll make you probably 150, 200. It might be time to move him on. But, this week I'd suggest if you got anywhere over 1,000, you're probably better off maybe trying to hold a trade or two this week, unless you're in dire straits with the injuries or suspensions.
I don't know which way he's going to go, but if John Bateman was a Supercoach star before he left, he's shown every sign of being, once he's fit, hopefully he's fit, around at 650, he's a
I think his break-even's around 30 this week, so he should easily make that and start making some money after this week.
He's doing good stuff.
We look like really your only point of attack for large parts of that game in the Tigers game. But
we'll get to that as well. But it's a bit of an interesting year this year because there's no 5'8",
there is no standout 5'8".
There's no 5'8", and like if you've got Munster, more power to you. But
I kicked myself because I sulked in, and then he comes out and puts on 70.
Yeah. So and then if you're scared of stacking too many, Broncos up, then Ezra's probably not one for you. So it's a bit.
And he's a bit hit and miss as well. He'll get 71 week and 25 the next. So it's
So I don't. I was, to be honest, even he was injured in the weekend. I was quite happy to carry to sit with AJ, and he's good for 50, 60, 70, and if he has a real good game, I've got Dylan Brown now as well, but. I should say Dylan Brown's doing some good stuff, so maybe
he's probably the form.
But I was happy with probably Brown and AJ for the year, but he's as we didn't mention, in fact, he's got a hamstring injury. He's out for about 4 weeks, I reckon.
Okay.
4 and I have not seen, to be honest.
Looked like he was in a lot of pain. Poor AJ when they was trying to stretch him out.
That put an end to that game for the Titans. Anyway, we've waffled enough. Let's get to the first game of round 4, which was 17-16. Parramatta defeating the Panthers in Golden Point. Have it with your stats.
It's 2 tries apiece, 2 out of 2 conversions for both teams. 1 out of 1 field goals for Parramatta. 1 out of 1 2-point field goals for Penrith. 41 out of 43 sets, played 35 out of 41. 1 line break to 2 for Penrith. 12 tackle busts to 32. 10 offloads to 12. 2 forced dropouts by Parramatta, 1 by Penrith. No 40-20s. 361 tackles, played 441. 1 ruck infringement to 2. 6 penalties conceded to 7. 3 errors by Parramatta, 7 by Penrith. A sin bin for both sides. Madison with 58 tackles. Fisher-Harris with 57. Campbell Gillard with 255 running metres. Taruva, who just got kicked to the entire night, with 319 running metres.
I was at the game. I was at Bankwest. I'll finish up to the truth.
Supercoach points, Hoskins with 117, Yo with 83, and 2 other Panthers before you got down to Jermaine Hopgood on 77.
So I was at Bankwest. I got free tickets through the spouse's work. Ended up costing me about $200 anyway, the way it goes these days. But that's a whole conversation for another day, the price is there. But anyway, you make your own bed when you have a beer every 10 minutes.
It doesn't help.
But it was funny with Taruva. Every time after half time, the bloke sitting behind this, are you ready to? It's coming to you. This is tackle 4. I wonder where he's going
next.
Where
are they going to kick it?
It's coming to you. Every time.
He didn't chirk it, but either. He charged back into the line every time he got the ball.
And I understand they've sat and gone, let's not kick it at 2-0, but after a while it was quite pretty.
If you have a look at what they did in the grand final last year, they kicked to 2-0. And they to try and take him out of that second hit up out of dummy half. And he was at like 180 metres at half time. Yeah. He was busting them and causing them problems.
He still made 200.
So you kick to the other side of the field, that sort of takes out the second play option as well. Otherwise, he's got to run 50.
Tango's
got to run 30 metres to get across there to get involved in the play. So it was probably pretty intelligent, realistically, from Parramatta. But
it makes all sense. Did you mention a game record for Moses?
1,000 kicking metres.
1,000 kicking metres and kicked.
And that was a big difference, to be honest, because Penrith were probably more dominant in the running game and field position. But he just turned around and kicked the fucking thing 80 metres back down the other end of the field and turned them around and made them work.
And start, like you said, you start with Taruva, then it has to be Tungo, then Edwards is in there all of a sudden. They were making the first 15 minutes Penrith looked. You can tell me the TV point of view. I'm just going from what was live. First 15 minutes Penrith looked dominant. I was sitting there just going, Penrith are about to score here, and then the gates will open. They held on really well, Parramatta, and in fact the first try came it was the second Paulo came to the field. They went straight through the middle and scored on the back of Yo's footwork. But I thought after that, Parra were the dominant team. Parra just looked on top the whole time, felt in control. I thought their 2 front rows were superb. Paulo and RCG, and what did they get? 200 each, 200 plus each.
Thereabouts.
Absolutely outstanding. Hopgood was great. And Ryan Madison, a noticeable difference back on the net.
He was probably their best player, I think. Madison, he was in everything. What a great game of footy. I was really impressed early with the second phase offloads that's led directly to points. Like those couple of tries, they were absolutely brilliant from both sides. It was a really tough game that was played in the middle of the field for long periods from both sides. But, Penrith seemed to sort of start. They didn't start the best, but they were on top. But they just couldn't seem to crack Parramatta at all. I know Parramatta's defence was rushing and it was quite effective, but Penrith there just seemed to be too many balls hitting the ground and not hitting the mark. You know, that clunky sort of expectation. I had an expectation of them being sort of clunky until they got their rhythm, especially around their dummy half at the start of the year. And they were probably a cog below their best. And Parramatta probably played close to the best game of footy they've played in even most of last year, to be honest. 3 errors and bugger all missed. They missed a few tackles, but they just did not make errors whatsoever. They played field position. They played smart footy, and there was some really lovely tries in this. Penrith sort of won that grind, as you said, when Paulo went off, and the first try with the little grubber from Dylan Brown, you see it really well on the TV where he's just taken that extra skip to the outside of his defender, which caused the next guy to rush up, which just left a really big hole in behind those 2 defenders. And he just dribbled it in there, and Edwards was a step off and, step further away than what he should have been, and Cartwright slid in for that first try. But then, that yo footwork through the middle of the field and that offload back to
it was sexy.
back in the middle of the field, and then Edwards scores down the middle of the field, and Matt Dory, again, he did almost the exact same thing. Nice little shimmy with the footwork and a beautiful offload to Penasini. Then Penasini gets held up and another offload back to the middle of the field for Hands, I think it was, to score. Oh, that would have been close to try of the year. That was a fantastic bit of play.
I was in the bay. In fact, you would have seen it on social media and everything else. I was in the bay next to all his friends. Mm-hmm. So he gave the big point over them, and it was really good to see they were into the game the whole time. And he looks a likely suspect.
He does. Yeah. He looks, got bit of pace. He's decent pass off the ground.
Gets him, but a front foot hooker gets him out, takes that. I guess it's probably the way the modern hooker, the Harry Grant mould more than the Hodgson mould, but it gets him up and gets him running on into the line. I like him. I liked him, what I saw there. And obviously BA did too, because he played an hour or so.
Yeah,
by the time they were done.
Absolutely. And then it was the lovely little short ball from Cleary with the lead runner for Hoskins to score next to the post to get it close again. Penrith really seemed to win their interchange with Sorensen and Lenu when they came on. They really picked up for that 10 or 15 minutes, and that's when they started punching holes through the middle of Parramatta and causing problems for Parramatta. But it didn't take long for Parramatta to reset and get back in there. And
their back half interchange was quite interesting, that they tried to stagger Paulo and RCG having stints to try and nurse them through.
Yep.
And then I think it was 7 minutes ago they brought Paulo back on. Unfortunately gave away the penalty, but I thought they obviously know they need their pillars out there, and they were quite conscious of that.
He seems to be working a little bit smarter with his interchange in the last couple of games, to be honest.
Yeah, Greg played a few more minutes, and Makatoa came on quite early, actually, surprisingly.
He did.
From memory. 14 minutes and 34 minutes. Hands 34 minutes. Dury only 20, but had some good impact. So it's a bit of a healthy looking interchange there.
You have to give props to Cleary, obviously. Everyone's talked about it already. You've heard nothing but what happened with the moment of in this match.
I wanted to kick him first, but not kick him. But I thought the Penrith last tackle options up until that point were very poor all game. I don't think he kicked most of the night.
They're still doing that kick out.
That moment was that moment itself, and we were right down the barrel watching it. It was unreal to watch, but I thought the last tackle options were atrocious at times.
Just consistently looking for...
He got tackled on a fifth tackle a couple of times. Luai got tackled
2 or 3 times.
And I think Kenny might have got wrapped up just before... At some point when they had all the momentum, and he got wrapped up out of dummy half.
And when they get too close to the line, the bomb goes out of it. They don't put the bomb up for the corners. Like you see, most teams will just still reef it up for the winger, and they play that short kick for the centre on top of the halves, and they don't have the bloke that's 7 foot tall anymore. And they're just blokes crowd out Crichton as soon as he gets close to the ball, and he's their most effective jumper these days for the ball, and they're just working really hard to keep him away from the contest. So it's sort of it's going missing really. I think they need to get back to just driving it in the in goal and really working on grinding teams into the dust like they did for most of last year.
We haven't seen the spinning grubber from Cleary this year. Haven't seen a lot of his tricks, to be honest. I think there might have been one
put up 2
belly
spiral
of the ball,
bombs. I think
a couple of them, but there was none of that. It was just.
But even them, they're 40 and 50 metres out, so you're only just getting to the contest at the best.
For along that period, they were working out. They're back in that game. They were working out the 30, even up until that field goal. And who else I'm talking about for the field goal? We've covered it. Dylan Edwards live, fantastic to watch. Gutho live, absolutely brilliant to watch. Parramatta don't win the game without Gutho on the field. He saved the Fisher Harris try. There's another try he saved. The amount of work he does in the back.
You see the Para fans blow up about where was he this time? He was out of position. He might be out of position once a game, if that. Most games he's in the fucking correct, right on the spot every end of tackle set.
And as a result, he gets dragged over the line here and there by a prop, but it's his job. That's going to happen. He was fantastic, and Dylan Edwards is brilliant live as well. So, but I thought Gutho was
so good with his support play.
Edwards. I thought both were tremendous. But I thought Luai was a non-factor, and I thought Cleary's last tackle options, and obviously it's a bit like last week where we're not giving points to people because it's expected of them. But I not saying I'm not bagging him by any means, but it wasn't. I will say I was disappointed by Cleary's general kicking options a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. Might be wrong, you can correct me, but then to ice what he did off that penalty was absolutely sensational.
Yeah, and realistically, that was still just to drag him back into the game. Like they were.
If they didn't get that penalty, he would have had to kick that from 60. And that wasn't happening.
Or it would have been a rainbow ball, and hope someone goes down a sideline somewhere. And they were really searching for answers there at the back end of this game until Paulo smacked someone across the top of the head, and then. But just the way that they set up off that play, and obviously we all knew it was coming. The defence got pretty close and did put a lot of pressure on him. So just to be as cool and precise as he was to slot that from 45 metres out to tie the match up.
It was
pretty
never
impressive.
missing either. It was fantastic. It was brilliant. And then the lead up to, and then went to Golden Point. The lead up to the Moses, I thought, to see Moses ice a field goal, I don't think like he needed to do it from whatever we all get told by Para fans. But the lead up to that was almost picture perfect from Para.
Absolutely. Obviously, the penalty doesn't help.
No, that's
Penrith
true.
go away, give away a penalty 40 metres off Parramatta's line, and then it was basically just a procession, just set up straight for the middle of the post.
From where he was
hit up from hit up.
If he'd missed that,
that was my thought sitting at home. I'm like, well, if he misses this, they don't deserve to win the game. Like he should slot this every day of the week.
Right there. So
did it quite coolly at the end. So I thought Cartwright was very good.
Yep.
Madison and Hopgood were fantastic for Parramatta. As you mentioned, Moses kicked for 1,000 metres, which is the first time I think it's ever been done. Fish and Yo were great, along with Edwards. And Hosking and Cleary were brilliant when they were needed by their teams.
He's funny on Hosking because he's tiny, not tiny, but he's standing out there next to
He played
Crichton.
a bit of centre and then a bit of
next to Crichton,
bit of second row.
Twice the size of him, it feels like, and but he's a little worker.
He works hard.
Again, not a knock,
that everyone needs.
Like this is a modern game, not a knock at all.
And for a smaller guy, his defence is actually quite strong.
His first couple of runs, I had to go and who is Luke? I'm going, who's 19? I had to go and work it out. Just because he was wide a lot of the game, but outstanding effort as well, effort there, and
his
probably
defence,
the answer
quite
to
strong.
Clearly the answer to their right side there.
I would imagine so.
Left side if they get.
Martin comes back, so
Martin go to left, and
I think I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. I wouldn't be surprised if Hoskins ends up pushing Garner out of the team.
What's happened? But in fact, Garner's not even in 21 this year.
Oh, really? So there you go. Yeah. Surprise. Yeah. But we'll see how that progresses. But I do think he's a much better. Just he's got better footwork, a little bit quicker, and a better attacking option on that left-hand side, which hopefully might unlock Luai a little bit if he gives him an extra threat on that left-hand side, because Garner really hasn't been a threat. The only time he's looked good is when he's actually played back through the middle of the field. Yeah, they've been playing him back into the forwards, and he's been quite strong there, but more just a battering ram rather than anything else.
He's a hole runner, but he's not a clinical hole runner. He's a good hole runner. But he doesn't even have, like a Sorensen has more footwork than him. There's blokes like that are better options. So, unfortunately for Luke, he's probably going to be number 20 most of the year and coming if they need
playing reserve grade for a big part of it, I would imagine now. But I had Madison with 3 points. I thought he was best player on the field. Moses closely followed with the 2. Obviously didn't have a great deal to do with their attack. There was but his kicking game was instrumental in getting them back into this game. Yeah. He out-kicked Cleary, who's
I think that's fair call, because I
pointed as the best kicker in the comp. And
fair.
I had Cleary or Hoskins for the 1 point.
I thought Gutho had to get a point.
Gutho? Yeah, we'll give it to Gutho.
And I would have Yo as Penrith's, Yo or Hoskins as Penrith's best. I know there was a field goal, but I was
disappointed in the general play.
It's funny thing, because we saw Penrith at Magic Round live, and I hadn't seen it live since. And I'm sure there's people go game every week, and they had an aura about him at Magic Round, and they were just a team. They were a good team, but they were just a teamie. They didn't feel like a dominant force, and I think that's it was coming, but it's a story of them. 3 Maddo, 2 Moses, 1 Gutho.
Yeah, that'll do me.
Alrighty. All right, here we go.
Let's do something.
24-12. Storm beat the Tigers Friday night, 6 p.m. Barney, some stats.
He had 4 tries to 2, 2 out of 4 conversions for the Storm and 2 out of 2 for the Tigers. 2 out of 2 penalty attempts for the Storm. 36 out of 41 sets, played 32 out of 41. 370 plus running metres and 106 plus post-contact metres for the Storm. 4 line breaks to 2, 26 tackle busts from both teams, 9 offloads to 15. 3 forced dropouts by the Storm, 0 by the Tigers, no 40-20s, 354 tackles played, 371. 3 ruck infringements against the Storm, 2 against the Tigers. 1 inside the 10 against the Storm, 7 penalties conceded from both teams, 8 errors to 9. Grant with 50 tackles, Bateman with 45. Will Warbrick with 202 running metres and Tupu with 182 running metres. Katoa with 96 Supercoach points, Bateman with 95, Warbrick with 88. Bit of cruise control for Melbourne for the majority of this match, I thought, especially after they scored some points early. They seemed to just sort of go back into the motion of the game. Munster wasn't really poking his head into the line too often. I think he was just trying to play in a bit of a dinner suit, which obviously a smashed up finger that he's carrying around is probably a good idea to do that. The one encouraging thing for the Tigers is they did make the Storm work to win this game. They weren't their own worst enemy and killed themselves and made it impossible for themselves.
They were their own
the
worst
match.
enemy, but they got a long way there. They climbed the mountain until they jumped off it.
That's a pretty good analogy, to be honest. But the fact that they did make them work for a large part of the game is something that they haven't done so far this year in any of their games, I don't think. So it's something. I don't know what else to give you, to be honest. But, Bateman was by far the biggest upside for the Tigers, I thought. There's kick off the scoring was a nice little offload from King, and then another one from Pezzett for Katoa to throw a long ball out to Warbrick, who you've bagged mercifully for 3 weeks, so that he scores the first try against the Tigers.
I think I gave it to Cody Walker last week, Bill Warbrick, and probably Khan Pereira. Yeah, and there they all are. Someone else.
That's correct.
It's almost everyone but one L. Brooks. If we could just
get him to score a couple. Yeah.
Lachlan Fitzgibbon's career best form. There's another one.
Yeah, anyway. Absolutely. It was Pezzett from the Storm. I thought that try sort of involved those two more than it did Katoa, but he got the try assist for it. However, they like to work that out because he threw the last pass. But Bateman was then crabbing across the field, pushing off players at will there for a second. He looked quite good in this little run, then put Kapoa over for the Tigers' first try. Then there was a couple of soft tries that the Tigers let in with the Olam one, which was a bit of a 50-50, jump for a high ball and tap it back, and Olam just sort of flops on top of it.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a lot of Tigers around the ball either when it did get knocked back. And the Munster one right before halftime, that's a coach killer every day of the week. All he did was step off his foot once, and there was nobody to be seen.
For whatever
reason,
just
cut back inside, and there was no one.
He's the king of that soft try. He scores that sort of try a lot, and
obviously can pick the space pretty well.
Obviously, you take those two out, and it's 12 all. But keep going for it.
Happy little grubber chase, chased it to the very bitter end and managed to sneak around a ball watching fullback there in Nick Meaney score that one. So, that's sort of where the gave him a bit of a sniff, but I think Melbourne closed them out pretty clinically in the end of the day.
Well, the last 10 minutes of the game was dead, but that was on us.
Yeah, that's true.
On the back of the scrum, which I think the exact same thing happened in the Souths game, and they reset the scrum, by the way. But only happens to us. On top there, lost a scrum against. Only the Tigers could do this. Lost a scrum against a feed. The other one, the Munster try, came on the back of being all over him for a good 10 minutes, and then 7 tackle set from Luke Brooks, march upfield. There we go. Munster walks over. How good.
I thought the starting pack was all pretty good for the Tigers, really. They all did a job, and their bench wasn't too bad either, except for Laurie. He really had no part in to play in this game.
I have a feeling we won't see him again in first grade.
Not as a 14.
He went back and played Reggie's last week. Apparently was average at best.
Okay.
I don't watch it, but I'll give him a plug. NWBT. Nothing but West Tigers on Twitter. Okay. Covers a lot of the reserve grade stuff.
Right.
And apparently him and Noflin were both very average. So,
Tui and Kapoa are probably the best of the backs for the Tigers. There was no real impact apart from those two. They didn't really have a massive impact, but they impacted it more than any of the rest of the outside backs. Bateman and Papali were easily the Tigers' best players. The starting Storm pack was really good, I thought, as well. The halves were decent, which was probably the difference at the end of the day. Pezzett had a pretty good game, so did Munster, even though he played in dinner suit. Warbrick cashed in. I don't think he did anything extraordinary to get some points there, but it was his best game in the NRL, and I thought Josh King was probably the best player on the ground, and Katoa put in a pretty good effort as well. But I think he got credited for 2 try assists that probably were the work of the inside men, to be honest.
Yeah, but he's the
which inflated his stats. He was the last pass
bloke,
month,
so they've got to make him look good in stats.
Yeah. I had Josh King as the 3 in this game. I thought he was the best player on the field. Bateman with the 2, and then gave Katoa the 1.
I did too. What am I supposed to say about this game? It's here's the thing. Everyone the Tigers have brought in is doing their job, isn't doing what I expect them. I think Naden's looking fantastic.
He was quiet in this game.
This wasn't his best game, and it annoys me that
he only had 3 runs or something for about 15 metres in this game.
But they're having to hook him to get Laurie on the field. But Capola's been fantastic. Come back this year, played both back row and there. And Bateman, this is Papali's best game. Appy's obviously, they'll get it right eventually.
I think Kapoa has to stay in the centres, to be honest. Outside Papali, I really like him.
I think he will.
And then if Bateman
and now they've got Tupou there. Tupou's got something.
Tupou's
got something about him, and he could be a very a top level winger,
especially outside of someone like Kapoa, because he's bigger than Talakai. He's probably a fraction quicker, and he's got a little bit of ball playing in him as well.
And I think he's a good. And I think it was last year the game he had 2 jumping tries. Was it him that had the 2 wherever he debuted? The biggest problem is, and until they want to admit it, this club's not going to change until Luke Brooks isn't a halfback. I don't really want to pile on like everyone else has, because I've done it plenty of times before. But they don't actually have a half in their club. Sheens has now come out and said Dewey's the best fullback in the club. Well, so they don't actually have a spine, because we don't know what Adam Dewey. We've seen one game, he was fine. I think he's a centre. I'm probably now going to turn around and admit it. He's probably he's a Matt Burton style 5'8".
Play him at 13 maybe.
Him and Matt Burton to me are quite similar, except Burton's would beat him over 100 metres by probably 15 yards. But there's 50, no... Yeah. Like, if you put Sean Johnson into this team, even the way he's playing, if you put fucking Pezzett into this team, they just... And the worst thing about it is, I think now the Tigers haven't won a game since August 2021 with Luke Brooks at halfback. All the games won last year with Hastings at halfback. And the other one's Wakeham, who was about to retire or do whatever he's going to do. Who has looked fine in trials. But until they turn around and realise it, even Brooks realised it last year when he asked for his release 7 times. Until they realise it, the club's going nowhere. And they did try, because they tried to get Moses, but they legit need to fucking go over to England and just beg George Williams, or go and find someone. Wellesby or someone, a Dodd or someone, because I don't know who else is going to play for him in Australia.
I'm sure there's
the
a
option
kid
is there on tape. If
somewhere.
you're listening, Sheensy, the option is there. You can go get fucking White and Williams and Bateman back together. They did it right last time together. But we can all dream. But they got $2 to spend next year.
With what they've got on the field at the moment, they really have only one option, and it's to chips in Appy.
Yeah.
It's to go through the middle of the field, tell Appy he's controlling the attack. He needs to tell the halves where they need to be
they're going
to get the ball.
Yeah.
And then they either need to kick early through Appy, and he needs to kick long on the 3rd or 4th tackle and turn him around and work really double time in defence, or he needs to be saying, all right, get ready on the 4th and 5th because you're kicking long, and that's it.
Yeah.
When we're close to the line, you can do whatever. You can make up your plays and play a little bit of bombs and short grubbers and stuff like that. But when we're in our defensive end, it's got to come straight through the middle of the field. It's got to be all off the back of Appy, and you need to surround him with... You need to give him options. You need blokes running angles on both sides of him, one through the middle, and then go from there.
Just have 20 minutes where they just go through the guts. We haven't seen it yet. Like, just go and hit go and do what Parramatta did.
Let's hit the lead man, hit the second man, and then
run at holes. Work them. 15 minutes in, Bateman can have some footwork, and if you find an offload and Kapola's there, But you've almost got to make the halves. It's almost like go and look what the Dolphins are doing. To be honest, the Dolphins are similar, but the Dolphins are doing what this structure should be: fast outside backs, big forwards, busting their ass, and then admittedly they do have a game controlling half. So we're going to find out what that means next week.
Yeah.
But until that changes, we're broken records, and people are probably sick of me talking about it. So let's move on. What'd you say? 3 King, Bateman, Katoa?
That's what I had.
Go with that.
Yep.
I just thought if Munster wasn't on the field, they don't win, but that's Cam Munster. So.
Yeah, Pezzett had an involvement in 2 tries as well, and Josh King was the bloke who sort of dropped it back in his lap. So.
Is Pezzett signed? Is he the one that signed 5-year deal at Melbourne?
No, that was what's his name?
Fullback, the big. He's Origin. He played Origin last year.
Pezzett played 6.
We haven't seen him yet. But he played. Did he play 7? Or did he play? He's a back rower.
Yeah, he's back rower / centre.
Go and fucking offer Pezzett. Go and find someone. As a half.
Is it Haworth?
Howarth.
Yeah. They haven't played him yet, so.
You know what's about all is that I'm waiting for it. One day in the next 6 weeks, I'll wake up and they'll have re-signed Luke Brooks for 5 years. And they'll potentially
buy a
kill
Dolphins
myself.
Jersey. Don't kill yourself. Just go and get a Dolphins jersey. You'll be fine.
I'll start up rugby and red wine. All right, 18-12. This was a game of the year.
Close to it.
Wasn't it?
Yeah,
18-12. Broncos over Dolphins. And this is how...
It was a little bit scrappier than the Penrith and Parramatta game. Just like the Penrith Parramatta was a little bit more clinical.
And I don't know if it was the crowd. It almost felt like an Origin style.
It was chips in,
game.
Everyone ripping in, having an absolute crack.
The stats in.
Yeah, it was brilliant. 2 tries to 4. 2 out of 2 conversions and 1 out of 4 for the Broncos. 29 out of 41 sets played 29 out of 43 sets. 3 line breaks to the Dolphins, 6 to the Broncos. 33 tackle busts to 36. 14 offloads to 11. No 40-20s. 301 tackles played, 341. 2 ruck infringements against the Dolphins. 5 penalties conceded to 4. 13 errors to 16. Gilbert made 40 tackles. Capewell made 39. Hamiso made 217 running metres. And Staggs made 237. Wallace with 89 Supercoach points, Walsh with 84, and Payne Haas with 74.
I assume a lot of those errors were like those ones over the line or, bundled in that sort of shit because they're feeling a little bit inflated. This was like, to me,
the start of the game, it was very stop-start.
Yeah.
But I think that was actually a plan from the Dolphins to try to slow the Broncos down, to be honest, and play a bit of that scrappy style of football and slow down the middle of the field, so that they could cope with the forwards coming through, and they did really well. They were actually probably winning that battle in the middle for the first half, really, which kept them in the game as long as it did, because the Broncos didn't really knock down that front door until the back end of the game.
No, well, I thought the Dolphins' defence was outstanding. I thought all across through their middles they matched them more or less, and this is a fallback I've been creaming myself over for a month. And their outside back, their slide defense, their defensive structure's fantastic. They shut down. Yeah. What was good is both sides created points, and both sides shut down enough points.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't a boring game.
2 or 3 tries saved on both sides of the field.
Played on the line or bumped in a touch, or Reece Walsh, beautiful under the ribs tackle to bundle out Zarko. Was it Zarko? Yeah, I think it was. No, it was Tessie. I saved it for you. And that was on the back of watching Adam Dewey just watch Walbrick just wander over.
Walk past him.
Literally from the same spot. Walsh hit him under the ribs and put him in touch. This was just 2 very well coached teams playing good footy and felt like a clear top 8 game. I think this felt better than every game, most games I watched this round anyway.
Pretty close to it, yeah. Absolutely.
What happens now without O'Sullivan is a concern.
Big time.
So we'll see what happens there. But, great job going and getting those forwards that the Dolphins did, and they matched the Brisbane forward pack. And there's enough creativity out there. If Hammer breaks away and they don't catch him, all of a sudden it's 18 all or even further. Ultimately, it was the old firm that won it for Dolphins. It was Reynolds creating space for Capewell, and running away, and then and before that was through the middle again. So it was Yeah.
Well, I thought the Broncos probably should have put a bigger gap on them earlier in the game. They had a lot of time and pressure, and they were constantly on the Dolphins' line. To their credit, they turned them away 2 or 3 times, as you mentioned, at the start of the game, pushing blokes into touch and just sliding or rushing and causing issues with the ball hitting the ground for the Broncos. But they took over there for about a 15 or probably 20-minute period just after just before and after half time.
Yeah.
And they dominated through the middle of the field. Wallace obviously crashed over for that try, and then they scored another nice one not long after. But Reece Walsh was the difference in this game. His pace on that wraparound play out the back. You see how many times he just had the defensive line completely fucked. Like they didn't, and it ended up being an awesome effort from a winger or from a centre to get across and make a try-saving tackle or get a hand to the ball and knock it down. But there was 2 beautiful tries where he just wrapped around and hit the winger, and the winger just waltzed over. Yeah. And there was 2 or 3 other opportunities that got shut down, but. Yeah, he really threatened every time he got involved.
He's the first pick Queensland fullback.
He just goes so fast. From when he picks up the ball, he's on the outside of not one defender. He's on the outside of 2 defenders by the time they've realised what they're doing and they start sliding. And he's already outside 2 guys. So
and when they get tied through the middle, when they have the Carrigan-Haas tag team, he just punches straight up underneath.
Starts following them back up through the guts of the forwards. Yeah.
He is fantastic. I said last week he's one of my favourite players to watch, but as I just said, even if Ponga's fit, Walsh is the form fullback.
Yeah,
surely.
I think he leaves him in the dust, to be honest. We haven't seen that kind of form out of Ponga apart from when he's played Origin over the last 2 years.
Well, last 2 years he's been picked sort of in spite of himself, and he's played well at Origin level. Yeah. But he's been picked in spite of how he's been at club level.
A little bit unfortunate the way the game finished. It wasn't actually a bad grubber from Milford that went across the field, but it just sat up perfectly for Staggs to run the length of the field.
Even if
because there was guys running through holes,
even if he catches that, probably 8 times out of 10 someone grabs him and we go to Golden Point.
Like it was a good pickup well above his head, but the way it sat up just in front of him, and then there was nobody there. Like if it had just sort of dribbled
a meter either way, and
dribbled a little bit, somebody would have dived on it before it got to him, or if it had got behind him, the winger would have dived on it in behind him, and it would have been a different game. But
what'd you make of Milford?
Good in patches. They worked him over consistently. Like they just ran traffic at him until he was completely fucked. When the bloke hasn't played a great deal of first grade for 2 or 3 years, it's going to happen. But it was probably one of his better performances in the last
I think he had 2 good games.
5 or 10 outings that we've seen out of him. So, it's going to be interesting how he's going to go week in, week out for the next couple of months.
Well, back to what we were saying about Appy, I assume Jerry Marshall-King's the kingpin coming in this week. But fantastic game. If you're thinking or you're on Dolphins and make the 8, I wouldn't be uncomfortable.
No, absolutely.
The only thing stopping to making the 8 is other teams are all improving as well.
They would have got a good price at the start of the year.
So people, I don't understand. And both of us, I think all 3 of us, never once suggested they were close to a spoon team. But,
but we didn't quite have them in the 8 either. But we'll see. We'll see how
there's a lot of footy to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of water under the bridge.
Yeah, the O'Sullivan injury mucked up their kicking game a bit. I thought the Dolphins forwards were average. They probably weren't quite as good as they have been recently, but
you can't fault the
they weren't bad. They definitely weren't bad.
Gilbert just works overtime.
Oh yeah, Gilbert did a whole heap of work.
Lemeloui's got some nice footwork.
They were the 2 I was just about to mention, to be honest. And Wallace and Nichols were great. What about the try saver from the game where he just slaps it out of his hands? His old mate's trying to dive over the top of him. That was brilliant. I thought Aitken was really strong out in the centres for them, and I think he's pretty much cemented that spot now. I can't see him moving him back into the back row, and I think he does a pretty good job out there for him, so leave him out there. And Hammer was very good. He's just always in and around the ball and plays that supporting fullback role really well. Nice little try off a grubber from Milford. I thought the Broncos forwards were good. Capewell, Carrigan were really strong.
Amazing what a difference a supporting fullback with pace makes, which 8 or 9 teams do have, but the ones that don't.
But he's got that little bit extra pace as well.
Yeah.
He's that little bit quicker than
you want that bit of you want that if you make half a break and he looms.
Yeah. And that acceleration's really the killer. That first 10 or 15 metres when they can absolutely...
Because by the time they catch up, it doesn't matter, it'll just fall over.
At best, they might get a grab on a jersey, and half the time you're not going to stop a bloke with a grab on the jersey anyway. So, he's already gone. It's just too late. But, Haas was brilliant again. Thought the back five were really good. I mentioned Walsh. He's just the X factor in this team now.
Tony's one I gave a serve to, and he had his best game so far.
Best game for probably 2 years. Even when he was in contention for Origin, I think he probably played better than when he was in contention for Origin last year.
You're welcome till I put you in Supercoach, and then you're fucked.
Herbie was really good again, and Cobbo was really good. And Staggs had, as you said, the best game he's played for a long time. But I gave Haas the 3 points just because I thought he was instrumental again at really kicking down that front door at the back end of this game and got him into the position for Walsh to do what he did, and I gave him the 2. And then I had either Wallace, Staggs, or Carrigan for the 1.
That's a tricky one. Well, look, Wallace tried to match him as best he could. Yeah. Carrigan was Carrigan, but that probably deserves a point. Probably
a fraction below.
He's absolute best. And Katoni. Let's go Katoni or Wallace.
Try winner. Yeah, probably the match winner. Katoni steals it.
All right.
I think he had 200 and over 200 something metres as well.
100 was from one run.
That's true.
So what else?
But he did do a bit more work than he normally does, which has been a bit of a knock on him from us.
Contact, a line break assist. What did Wallace do? Let's go. Wallace, 24 tackles, a try, 130 metres from 15 runs. I'll give it to Katoni. You're right.
Staggs just edges him out, I think.
All right. The Saturday Arvo kicked off late, kept us all waiting till 5:30, and then the Titans 24.
5:30.
Scraped. I don't say scraped home, but they didn't feel that.
They weren't dominant. No,
24-12 Titans lost AJ and Foreign, as we mentioned earlier.
Probably a different game if those two stay on the field for 80 minutes, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. What did the stats say?
4 tries to 2, 4 out of 4 conversions, played 1 out of 2, and 1 out of 1 penalty attempts for the Titans. 34 out of 42 sets, played 31 out of 41. 7 line breaks for both teams, 27 tackle busts, played 33 for the Titans. 7 offloads to 14, 3 forced dropouts to 2, 313 tackles, played 317. 1 ruck infringement to 2, 1 inside the 10 against the Cowboys. 9 penalties conceded to the Cowboys, 6 to the Titans. 10 errors to 12, a sin bin for the Cowboys. Robson with 36 tackles, Randall with 35, Holmes with 232 running metres, and Tino with 222. Khan Pereira, 117 Supercoach points. David Fafita with 96. 2 other Titans before you got to Nanai on 70.
Yeah, odd game because I thought the Titans overperformed here, and it's like I sort of want to talk more about them. But I feel like I'm going to be too harsh on the Cowboys if I do, so you can go first.
I think they had more outstanding performers than what the Cowboys did. Yes, absolutely.
Fafita was fantastic.
Tino was fantastic.
And Tino was fantastic, yeah. So the 3
Khan
big
Pereira had some really nice touches of the footy and left some people, burnt some people completely.
He burnt people off a dime too. That last
2 or 3 steps, that acceleration as I was talking about earlier. And Fafita had a fantastic game. But the Cowboys seemed to sort of work, just had a little bit more continuity between their entire team, and their back line seemed to probably work a fraction better than what the Titans did.
Which is understandable when you've lost 2 of your spines.
When you're missing your fullback and your 5'8".
Throw Verrills in there, but yeah.
So, throw Verrills in there as well, who's out for a while now. But, I thought the Titans were up for most of the first half. They played a bit of a spoiling game like the Dolphins, I thought, at the beginning of the game, tried to slow it down.
They've realised they got the 3
They got the power game, but they probably don't.
And they're going to reinforce it with McKaylee coming in.
They're probably not the best team to be playing high energy, continually up tempo footy. So they're probably better off breaking the game down a little bit and slowing it down at different times, giving themselves a bit of a break and just bashing through the middle. And they did it quite well for the first half. The Cowboys sort of sped the game up a little bit, just either side of the half-time break, and I think that's sort of where they gained a bit of ascendancy. But there was a couple of lucky tries as well, which doesn't really bode well for the Cowboys.
All of it, they had Tamo crash play.
Yep. They had two crash plays.
Two crash plays. And an Val 100-metre intercept and Tom Chester fucking up, down, inside out, cartwell.
Ball to the face, kick it into somebody else.
And
that's their fault. That's all their points.
I wasn't inspired, I'll be honest.
No, did have a good game. He ran the ball well and caused a lot of problems, tackle busts and all the rest of it. But there wasn't anything that sort of came after his run. You know what I mean? Like he'd break through the line and or he'd make a tackle bust or two, and then it'd just stop, and then they'd give it to a forward, and he'd run it back through the middle of the field.
Yeah.
So, they got a bit of work to do with their attack. Absolutely. And the Titans did look quite good with the two tries that Fafita got involved with and put Khan Pereira away both times. He's
playing that sort of bit wider now.
Yeah, and he's playing a little bit more. He's doing work as well, though.
Yeah.
Like, he's doing the work that we've been asking him to do, and he's he's using his ball playing as well. He's got a pretty decent right to left pass there as well, which is going to be a problem for a few people.
Well, how good was the ball for
Khan Pereira? There were two of them, and put him away both times. So. The injuries probably would have been a different game. I think the Titans may have snuck away with it if those two blokes stay on the field.
I tipped them. It's been a weekend for me. I think I tipped 3 of 8, and I reckon the patient was the operation was a success, but the patient died.
Yeah, well, Titans and Manly both probably
should have
won. So
there's 5, and no, we don't talk about that. I spent a lot of time thinking about Tip and Para too, but anyway.
Yeah, Pereira was good. Boyd and Tino were strong for the Titans. Isaac Fasua-Malawi was actually quite good off the bench as well. I'll be looking forward to seeing him get a bit more time in the future. Mo and Fafita were absolutely brilliant. They were the difference for the Titans, and they were probably the reason that the Titans got us. The Titans were still in this game towards the back end of the game. There were no real huge standouts for the Cowboys. Tamau and Robson were very good. The halves were decent, and Chester and Val were probably the best of their back line. But that comes also with the
injury.
It looked quite good out there. That's also predicated by an intercept and a lucky bounce off the face and a soccer kick into somebody else. Yeah. So, that adds to the stats. Nanai was probably their best for the Cowboys, but I had David Fafita as man of the match in this game. I thought he was fantastic. Did the work, put away Pereira with 2 tries, and he had 6 or 7 tackle busts and a couple of line breaks. So I gave him the 2 points.
I just thought Mo should get a point as well, but I'm biased. So.
And then I had Nanai or Mo for the 1. But
who was second?
I had Pereira, Khan Pereira.
Oh, yeah, okay.
2.
Right, yeah, we get you all Titans.
Yeah, well, Mo or Nanai, but for the 1.
Go all Titans. There we go. Nanai, Khan Pereira.
Nanai did do a little bit more work in this game, but he was also gifted a try there, which enhances his stats.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, go Fafita, Mo, and Khan Pereira.
Fafita, Pereira, and Mo.
No, Mo for 2. Yeah, we're not a wingers. Yeah, going. That's fine.
Mo gets 1.
And then we got to the other Golden Point game of the round, the Bunnies 13, Eagles 12. Sorry, I should put 14. I was confused. Apparently the wrong denominations there. But anyway, Cody Walker bounced back after I called him a pot plant last week. That's nice for him. What did the stats say?
2 tries apiece, 1 out of 2 conversions for Souths, 2 out of 2 for Manly. 1 out of 2 field goal attempts for Souths, and 0 out of 1 for Manly. 1 out of 1 penalty attempts for Souths. 33 out of 44 sets played, 36 out of 45. 3 line breaks for both teams. 19 tackle busts for Souths, 36 for Manly. 2 offloads to 14. 1 forced dropout for Souths. No 40-20s. 386 tackles played, 353. 2 ruck infringements against Manly. 3 inside the 10s against Souths. 7 penalties conceded to 4. 11 errors to 12. Cameron Murray made 56 tackles. Jake made 50. Tass with 184 running metres and Tom Burgess with 201. Walker with 80 Supercoach points. Kulamutangi with 72 and Olakawatu with 71. Tough game of footy, man.
Good game of footy.
Jeez, they slogged this one out.
And there was some tired boys by the time we got about the hour mark. There was some tired boys here.
Both of these forwards just absolutely ripped into each other, and they were belting the crap out of each other, which is the type of footy I enjoy watching, to be honest. Like, they did not let up until probably the last 10 or 15 minutes when they were both just completely gassed.
Yeah.
And they were still having a crack. Both teams refused to crack in defence. It was a massive effort in the middle of the field. And probably
great signs for Manly, even though they lost.
Absolutely.
Should have won, but they would have got hammered this time not even this time last year, but around 20 last year.
They probably would have lost by 10 or 12
they
points.
They would have got destroyed through the middle, and then someone would have walked over Morgan Harper or Hank Scorpio, and all of a sudden it's 28-12 when it should have been something like this. So
it was there's just a massive effort from South in the middle of the field, and probably a fraction more creativity out of their halves that got South home in this game. And they only just scraped home. Fantastically entertaining game of footy with both packs into each other.
Now, if Quickies would like to sponsor us, this would be a much better podcast. Anyway.
Both outside backs really seem to struggle to get the better of their opposition players. Like, nobody got on the outside of anyone. Nobody really burned anyone or pushed anyone off. And they just sort of, they throw it out there and it just get wrapped up, and that would be the end. So they go back to the middle and try to create something back in there.
Yeah.
Damien Cook was fantastic, I thought, out of dummy half. Set up the first try with his little run and grubber, and then Cody Walker snuck in behind and got a hand to the ball at the very last second somehow. Don't know how that worked, but it was the footage is there. He just got a hand to it for the first try. And then DCE sort of took control, I thought, after that, and really emphasised with his kicking game.
Not a weird thing, but in a game where it's a 1 point game, I thought DCE was just outstanding in this game.
Absolutely, he was.
Just brilliant. But you can't really point to stats or anything, but,
Supercoach points. He wasn't breaking the line apart or anything like that, but he was a constant threat. Yeah. His kicking game was fantastic, and his defence was quite good, from a half, which you don't generally relate to a half being fantastic in defence. But, the lovely little kick for Olakau'atu's try. The block of flats managed to jump over the top of Taz. That bloke is massive. I don't know how he can jump so high. Like, seriously. He's 6'7" and 120 kilos, and he jumps 4 foot off the ground. Like,
and easy. He looks actually. He looks real.
Well, he's apparently a basketball player.
Yeah. You
back in the day,
and I think Nanai was too, but.
And a one-handed grab as well.
Just
it wasn't both hands.
Like, he looks real.
Yeah, he does look a little.
He looks like he's fit and looks scary. Like,
does look scary.
Motivated, scary, and.
And it was a one-handed grab too, and it wasn't even clean. He had to sort of reach his arm around the back of the ball and drag it forward to get hold of it.
He would have been the bloke jumping over you and I in PE in Richmond.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, well done.
Yeah.
And then an intercept off Cam Murray, which you don't see very often. That was a pretty poor pass, I thought. It actually hit Cherry right on the chest, and he runs 50 metres, and Manly were probably on top going into half-time. But, then Walker doubled around on the back of that sweep play out to the right and managed to force his way over, and the game was, it was anyone's right up to the end. It was probably Manly's, realistically, but they just didn't... I don't know if they're missing a trick out wide. I think Cooler was probably hobbling around for a fair bit of that second half, which didn't help him being able to break open the line. But
God bless him, but you've got Brad Parker keeping KO Weeks out of the team, and they've got some other strike that they could be playing.
But Brad Parker's so good in defence, so I know. It's one or the other.
And Morgan Harper's playing this week.
And Tommy was nowhere near his best, obviously. The forward pass call doesn't help. But I don't think...
That's interesting. I didn't think of it until I think Paul Kent might have mentioned it on 360. Latrell was there in cover. It would have been interesting to see if that was not called for whether Latrell...
Whether it gets past Latrell or not.
That would have been quite interesting.
But that was nowhere near forward. I don't know where
that
was
actually the thing I was going to bring up. But
that was a metre backwards.
And it was apparently the last pass. Apparently it was the last ball. Because I went back and watched it today again, and then the ref actually goes, the ball to Tommy. Actually, speaking of in the Tigers game where Munster threw the fucking forward pass and stopped and went, and then they just said, it's fine.
That's all right. Don't worry about it.
We can get fucked 4 ways every time, don't worry. More holes and anyway. Yes, but they consider that unlucky, and you don't know how everything.
Yeah, that's right. And then they got a penalty with 10, 12 minutes to go south to level things up. Latrell didn't look like kicking a field goal. His first attempt was shocking, and he was nowhere near the right position.
He's in the wrong side of the field.
He seemed jittery. He was sort of like bouncing all over the place.
Latrell this year, it's almost like he's made a point of being zen. And now he's too calm because he doesn't he stays out of Cody's shit.
He needs that little bit of
red line.
He
stays calm over here, and then even Alloway come and actually fucking punched him in the face, and no one knows what Zed blew about, and he just goes, I'll just take 2. Yeah. It's like, which more power to him, and obviously he cops all the shit under the world and just likes it on the phone. Like, God bless him, he's one of my favourite players, but sometimes I think he needs to get a bit angry. He's at his best when he's
pumping his chest
and just get out and belt up some, which I assume Freddie will just go and like poke him a bit at Origin time, but
Jamie Cook probably saved the game, to be honest.
But
ZCE was in a good position to sink that field goal and that charge down. I think he probably slots that if Cook doesn't get there and charge that down.
I can't believe Damien Cook got out sprinted going for it. He used to be a beach sprinter, yeah.
I think he made 50-odd tackles.
Shitty old Cooler.
He got away pretty quick there, but yeah, Cooler's probably close to the quickest bloke in the comp.
Yeah, it's all right, Dave. I'm not knocking you today. It's okay. It's all right.
But yeah, no. Obviously, he did well just to get there, to be honest. He was completely gassed, and like him and Murray were both completely fucked with 10 minutes to go. Yeah. Like they wanted to go and sit down somewhere and not be involved in the rest of this game, but they managed to push themselves through. And then, Ilias just iced it. A good position. They probably shouldn't have missed, and it may be another confidence-boosting game for Ilias where he
gets
kicks
to
on.
tick that box now. He's had the game earlier in the year. I think it's good. Like he's growing half. It's going to keep growing.
Yeah, and he was quite good in and around the ball as well for large parts of the game. And his defence has improved out of sight. Yeah. He stopped a couple of blokes dead again in this game. Yeah. I think he did the same in the Sharks game where he stopped a few of the big forwards.
He chopped down Nakora once, and he did some big boys there. Yeah. He's having a great year, a tremendous year, breakout year, probably if it keeps going.
By the back end of the year, I expect him to be right up there, to be honest, and be someone we're talking about week in and week out. So
it's very interesting to see. I was just going to say about Cam Murray, because you mentioned how good he was. It's weird when you see people through social media and that sort of thing look at the world through Supercoach spectrum, and Cam Murray must be out of form because he didn't get 80
got
points.
60 points, yeah.
Like,
he's made 56 tackles.
Mate. Yeah. He's worked his ring off. He's not in the field. They just
two nice little offloads that cause line breaks for his inside and outside men. Constantly, every time the ball came to him, he's going into the line. Like he's probably not going into the line as hard as he was last year. I've noticed his running game's probably not as effective, but he's probably doing a little bit more defence than he was last year as well, especially with the middles that they're missing at the moment. So
I think
it's got to be a trade-off somewhere.
100%, but I think he's trying to be a bit more of that better feed for Ilias, and he's conscious effort about making Ilias a better-looking player, or a better player around, I should say. Where were we heading before I brought that up? Oh, Cody Walker. Yeah, what do you make of his game?
Oh, he was fantastic. He got involved exactly when he needed to. Yeah. He was running around. He didn't quite get the pumpkin status, but he was running around pumping his chest, and he was in that sort of his zen, which is half pissed off and half thinking about what he's doing, and he had a really good game. He's always had his defensive inefficiencies, and his kicking game's not the greatest, but when he's running the ball, it's obviously when he's at his best, and he had good impact twice for points for South. So, I thought he was quite good. Ilias probably did a little bit more of the game management, but he did have a couple of very...
Which suits him, which is what it should be.
Yeah, very good explosive moments in this game. I thought both benches offered very little, except for Kepi. Kepi came on, played a good game for Manly off the bench, but the rest of the benches for both sides really offered little to nothing in this one.
Can anyone tell us what... So we're now 3 years in. Can anyone tell us who Ben Turbo is?
Yeah, he likes to run sideways a lot and get chopped down.
Yeah.
Runs 20 metres sideways, 5 metres forwards, and gets belted from the side. That's generally what I've seen. A lot of him, a lot of what he does. He's not the worst in defence, but I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah.
He's probably a level below a first grader, to be honest, from what we've seen from him. Don't get me wrong, he might come out and blow the world apart, but
and isn't it amazing? Likely. We have been calling for 3 years for Jake Turbo to not play 5'8" and play prop, and he's now close to the best prop in the game. Well, out contribution-wise.
Yeah.
Defensive-wise, he's still the best tackler. But through
he's
the middle,
he's
now, I think I saw, again, it might have been through Rugby League Riders, or I'll make sure I get the right one to give him a plug on Twitter. One of them. Assume it's them. His passing per game's gone from like 30 down to 13 or whatever it is. And he's just making meters, but then chopping blokes in half.
He's taking good hard meters too through the middle of the field.
It's been superb to watch. It's been great. But it's a team that's always needed a prop. Like and it's making Paseka better. It's made them a better team for him just doing the grunt. He should now be the New South Wales, which he has been actually, to be honest. He's now, and he was for Australia, more thinking about this. But he's now, you first pick New South Wales prop, and how you then put Paulo and RCG and whoever else around him is how you do it. Someone obvious I've missed there, but someone shouted at me.
I thought the starting packs were great for both sides. Lawton was quite good for Manly as well. Olakau'atu was fantastic again. And so was Cherry Evans. He was brilliant in this game. Him and Olakau'atu were probably Manly's best two players on the field. Ilias and Burgess were very good. Murray, Keon Kulamatungi and Tass were fantastic, I thought. But, Cook and Walker were brilliant. I thought they were the two best players on the field.
Okay,
throw in maybe DCE there somewhere as well.
Was the only sort of one DCE and Olakau'atu.
I had Walker 3, Cook 2, and then had DCE or Olakau'atu for 1.
But go with DCE 1. Go with that. All right, Sunday kicked off. We had the triple treat Sunday with the Warriors 16, the Bulldogs 14. And I thought that flattered the Bulldogs to me. But you can tell me I'm wrong, Barney. You can tell me the stats before.
No, well, they got the rub of the green for probably 60 minutes, to be honest.
Bulldogs.
And then, absolutely. They got all the calls for the first 60 minutes, and then every dog supporter in the world was jumping up and down for the last 20 minutes.
Heard about
Don't get me wrong, it should have been an obstruction. Like, let's get the fucking elephant
but
out of the room.
We'll get both elephants in the room. That was a rake.
Yes.
I would have given that a try.
Yes.
And I would have given the obstruction.
And then it goes and Josh Adokar runs the length of the field off the scrum.
So it led straight from there.
And then,
but he's there doing this at the ball, not at him, at the ball.
Absolutely.
And that's a rake.
And the obstruction, I would actually prefer them to run the rule that they played on the weekend every single game.
It seems like they are.
Because you look at Reid, he jumps outside of Fanua Blake.
They've done it twice because they did it with the Panthers game.
Yeah.
With Cody.
Yeah.
If they're going to keep doing it,
I'd love them to do it constantly because that'd make me happier than them calling obstruction every time. Because you see Reid, he looks out, he motions out, and he steps outside of Fanua Blake, and then goes, I'm fucked here, and throws himself back in front of Fanua Blake looking for the penalty. He was never going to get back to
Johnson. It was
the
same as Cody in the Penrith game. All he did was try and tackle he had no anything but the line runner.
But the fact that he was on his inside shoulder and Reid chose to go out. He only went half a step, but then he went back into contact.
Because it becomes self-fulfilling in a good way in that once they stop giving these away, the defenders actually go,
well, even the bloke on the inside of Fanua Blake took the dummy.
Yeah.
And then Reid took the dummy as well. They both motioned out and then couldn't get back in.
Yeah.
So he went looking for the penalty and threw himself in front.
But I think last year would have been
3 years now. It would spin an obstruction every time.
But now we've seen.
So I can understand.
There's more examples, but there's more examples. But we're now on the road where people will stop milking and stop doing that.
I can understand everyone getting pissed off, and it should have been called an obstruction.
But if that's a new world, cool, as long as it's consistent.
As I said, in my preference, if you're looking out and you motion out in your defence and then you can't get back in, that's your problem.
Yep.
But did we went through the stats? Did we, or have we not done that yet? We haven't. 3 tries to 2, 2 out of 3 conversions played, 2 out of 2, and 1 out of 1 penalty attempts for the Bulldogs. 37 out of 42 sets played, 31 out of 38 for Canterbury. 6 line breaks to 2. 37 tackle busts for the Warriors, 24 for the Bulldogs. 12 offloads to 13. 3 forced dropouts to 2. And a 40-20 for the Bulldogs. 327 tackles played, 357. 3 ruck infringements to 2. 4 penalties conceded to 5. 6 errors to 9. Ford made 41 tackles. King with 48. Vialia with 165 running metres. And Kiraz with 194. Vialia with 104 Supercoach points, Kiraz with 92, and Sean Johnson with 89.
Those big Warriors backs are now starting to become gold in Supercoach, and I should have grabbed them earlier, but Valia Montoya had the big score last week. He did well again this week.
Just brushing guys aside, bumping over the top.
When they're rolling and pumping, and you get big boys out wide, they'll at least get tackle.
The halves
breaks.
are getting them some good, clean early ball as well, which they haven't seen for a couple of years.
Should we start there? Sean Johnson, and maybe is the case study for Luke Brooks, who is a running half, and all he does is run. Now his one job is to get the ball and run at the line. Yep. And get dragged down halfway through the line without a supporting fullback. But as a running half, your job is to, first of all, engage your line.
Yep.
Second of all, engage your back rowers. Yeah. And then that makes the rest of your game more. But
they already know now he's not going to pass, because he either passes before he decides to run or he runs.
Yeah.
There's no run then pass. It's sort of one or the other. But
it brings alive your short kicking game
very well at the moment. Yeah. He's even sort of drawing defenders and then completely stopping and stepping sideways and then bringing a man onto the ball, which just gives you that half a step to the left or the right, which opens up a bit of space on the outside shoulders of defenders, which is, it's been his best year since probably the first year when he was at the Sharks, when he was on fire there before he blew his Achilles out.
Last 2 games.
He's been fantastic the last 2 games in a row. And Terry Martin.
Is it as simple as front foot footy, or is it more to that?
It's helping. It's definitely helping.
Or not having to kick out of trouble constantly, or not having someone drop the ball.
He's getting pretty good service out of dummy half.
Get Egan back this week.
He's getting clean ball, and he's getting it early with time. Like, there's not defenders in his face. Like, a lot of the time when you're on the back foot and you slow play the balls, by the time your half's getting the ball, you've got a bloke 2 metres away from you. So that just cuts down all your decision time. You don't get an option to run then. You just have to shovel the ball on or try to sort of, or just get hit, basically. Yeah. So, the fact that the Warriors are getting over the advantage line, they're probably winning. I think they've won pretty much every battle in the middle of the field this year.
Which is what the stereotype of the playing the Warriors should be. Was when they were the best in, 01 and 03 and blah, 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 blah. The other time they were real strong. And this is they've gone back and gone, how do we build our best middle? They've just become the Warriors again, which is what it was for years. That you don't want to go to New Zealand because you get bashed.
Yeah. And the centres will bash you, their wingers will bash you, and then don't go near the middle of the field.
If you drop a couple, they're going to rip you apart. Yeah. When back in and Sean Johnson, he's not quite peak state. He's not quite as peak Sean Johnson, but
his kicking game's been quite good. He's kicking into corners and causing teams to turn around and get back there. And you saw that out of the stats out of Carraz and Josh Adokar, the amount of work they had to do coming back off their own line, which obviously runs into their running meters. But I thought Dogs were probably slightly better for a little bit longer in this game. Just on the edges of the field, more so than the middles, and they were causing problems with Burton and the back rowers, but they just couldn't seem to break the Warriors.
Once they were for about half hour, and their backs. I thought their backs carried their forwards.
Yeah.
By the time we got 35-40 minutes in. Yeah. But it did feel to me in the second half, like
the last half an hour was all Warriors.
Well, it felt like it could have been. Yeah. They did well not to have it 26-14 or more. It felt like they were about to collapse. I think I messaged the chat, said they're going here. Here we go, and they hung on but they never, to me, felt like winning in a weird way.
The big part of it, I thought that, what's his name? Webster did a really good job with his forward rotation at the back end of this game. Well, because you'll notice he had none of his big guys on the field. As soon as Tohu went down, he took all the big guys off the field.
Well, 12 months ago, if Tohu goes down, what do you get? Like
28 minutes or something?
But Tohu went down 44th minute, so straight off half time.
Yeah, as soon as
they would have packed up shop and gone, we're fucked.
They took Fanua Blake off, they took Thomas Ale off, and they took Niokore off.
Yeah.
They put all their back row workers on and just worked for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And just tackled their ass off for 20 minutes. And then you'll notice in the last 15, 20 minutes of this game, Fanua Blake come back on, Ale come back on, and Niokore came back on. And they just went straight through the middle of the Bulldogs and just tore
the two blokes
them.
That put the cream on that cake.
They didn't tear them apart, but they just
the two blokes that put the cream on that crate
through the middle.
It was Dylan Walker, who's now apparently the biggest bloke. The biggest
Dylan Walker playing second row.
Shave his head.
He's dead set playing second row.
Widened his shoulders by 6 inches.
Played 60 minutes.
He was tremendous. And Jazz Tavanga. The two. I think whoever's calling, might have called them the Bald Brothers or something.
The Bald Brothers.
Or the Bald Brash Brothers, something like that. But they were just
I did mention in the preview last week, I thought they would be the reason that they win this game. They were tremendous. And they were a big part
Bunty did his job, and Jackson Ford.
Fantastic game.
What a great buy, though. Like, he's a hole hitter, he's a grubber chaser.
And he was a bit player at St George.
Yeah, and he's come here, and you put him around some weapons, and he goes, oh, fuck, all right, this is what I do. It was. I was just so impressed by all of them that. Yeah, what do we say about dogs? Look, to me, the dogs, I don't throw them in the same basket, but they're a little bit tigerish in that their problems are still their problems. So they've answered. Everyone they've bought is ticking their box. Reed's Reed's their best kicker. Reed's outstanding.
At the moment he is.
He's delivering a 40, 20 or 2 every week.
Yep.
His service is brilliant. He's doing exactly what he was bought to do.
Kick-out's not really doing a job. No, he didn't in this one.
He didn't do a great deal. Probably got bashed out of the game more than anything.
Yeah.
Burton, as I've said, since he went there, he's got the bomb, and I don't know if there's a lot more else to his kicking. There isn't. It simply
probably better off as Penrith played him as a centre who kicks
or
as a second option.
If he was playing outside Andrew Johns, he'd be a superstar. Or Nathan, who'd take Nathan Cleary, because he can be a supporting 5'8" and play through the middle and be fast. Because when he did, was it this game he got the try, didn't he? He ran through the.
But he's
just
having to do too much work.
And then Flanagan, he's a nice passer. He does this, that, and the other, but doesn't add a great deal. And then Perham's just a player. So and they're getting Crichton next year. Jury's still going to be out. Everyone else is doing their job admirably, and they're just getting not much better than what they got. So
they really need a little bit more punch through the middle. Like you look at it, this one,
and they're obviously missing TPJ.
Max King was good. He was very good. Probably close to one of the better players on the field, but there wasn't a lot of help for him through the middle of the field out of this Bulldogs team. First try for the Bulldogs was soft as well. The Warriors just got that all wrong, where Carraz just strolled over in the corner.
So you look at the tries against Tigers last week, 3 long range tries, and a scrum based try for Fox where you just get him outside a bloke, he's not going to catch him, and a soft one for Carraz. So in the last 2 weeks against what we came this year thinking weren't great teams, they've produced themselves a try.
Yeah.
So I don't want to sound too harsh on them because they're going in the right direction.
It's hard to go over there as well. Obviously, go to New Zealand. I don't think many teams do awesomely well when they go over to New Zealand and play over there. But I think we've mentioned pretty much everything. The Dogs as a whole were decent, but their bench offered very little, as did Flanagan, to be honest. Reed was okay, and Preston's getting better each week. He's really going to fit into being a first grader by the time he's done. Parham, I thought, was pretty good, so was Josh Adokar, and Carraz was their best player again. The bloke just got no quit in him. He just consistently every time he gets given an opportunity, he's either running straight at you or trying to get around you. So he's just got no quit in him. He's fantastic.
Actually, we didn't mention him nursing the wingers now because the inevitable Origin conversation come up, but we didn't wrap Garrick at all in that Manly game. He was tremendous again.
Yeah.
But just a throwback. Get going.
Max King, I thought, was brilliant for the Bulldogs and probably their best player. Chance, Montoya, Fanua Blake and Niokore were...
Give me a 3.5 and I'll fix you up.
We're pretty strong through the middle of the field as Daggy puts in his table service order.
Picking the
one of the patrons. Walker and Tavanga were awesome off the bench. They added so much in this game. You've already mentioned Ford. Johnson and Vialia were brilliant. I gave Vialia the 3 points. I thought he was instrumental in what he did.
Did you really?
I did.
Okay.
250-odd metres. I think he had about 7 or 8 tackle busts, a line break, couple of tries. I thought he... I know a lot of it was set up by his inside men, but there was the 2 tries that he did score weren't just catch the ball and fall over the line. Like he had to beat blokes on the inside, outside, bump people off and score.
You're now just a winger simp now.
Sean Johnson 2 points. And then I had Ford or King.
I had...
Or Carraz. But I really like King. I probably should have had King at maybe 2, but...
I had 3 to Johnson, 2 to Fanua Blake, whose actual work when he was on the field was outstanding, and 1 to Ford. But you're not wrong, so I'm just going to think about this, and you can think about mine. What do you reckon?
SJ, Fanua Blake, Vialia?
You don't want to brush King or Carraz? Carraz will win a Dally M or something. All right, so what do you say? SJ... Fanua Blake wasn't.
Vialia, SJ.
That's right. There he is. Thank you, Troy. On a sec. I'll get in a minute. It's all right.
No, yeah, I'm going to stick with Vialia for 3 and SJ for 2. You can do whatever you want with the 1 point.
I was thinking for Jackson Ford, so.
Yeah, Jackson Ford will do.
Sweet. All right. Poor old Fanua
Max
Blake.
King and Carraz.
I'll buy you a beer next time I see you. All right, 24-14.
I'll buy you plenty of beers if you turn up here. We'll have a chat for 20 minutes.
All right, 24-14. The Newcastle Knights defeated a top 4 team in the Raiders, as we keep getting told.
Probably the worst performance out of anyone, realistically. Like the Dragons were down and just got flogged by a team that was red hot.
No, Dragons are worse. Were they red hot or were they shit? We'll get to that.
Anyway,
this
the
was
Raiders
not good.
Just petered out and did nothing.
But they did nothing from the start. The only time it looked like Frawley,
Hudson Young's
tell us
nice
stats, and then we
the first
we usually
5
talk
minutes,
about this in the show.
five tries to 2, 2 out of 5 conversions for the Knights, 2 out of 4 for the Raiders. Hey, how does that work? They only scored fucking 2 tries.
2 out of 5 for the Knights, 2 out of 2 for
2 out of 2 for the
Wiranara.
Anyway, 1 2-point field goals for Canberra right on half time. 37 out of 44 sets played, 26 out of 37. 7 line breaks for the Knights, 3 for Canberra. 45 tackle busts to 25. 10 offloads to 4. 1 forced dropout from the Raiders. No 40-20s. 401 tackles from the Knights, 363 by Canberra. 1 ruck infringement to 2. 1 inside the 10 to 2. 3 penalties conceded to 4. 8 errors from the Newcastle, 13 from Canberra. A sin bin to Canberra. Brayley with 55 tackles. Starling with 39. Lachlan Miller with 253 running metres. And Sebastian Chris with 293. Greg Marzu, 122 Supercoach points. Gagai with 109. Miller with 103. And another Newcastle player before you got to Hudson Young on 79.
Do you want to put the boot in the Canberra first? You want to start with the good stuff first?
Well,
let's bag Canberra because who cares? We're talking about because
well, they scored the first try through Hudson Young, which I'm pretty sure I tipped last week. I thought that's where that'd be their go-to, and then after 5 minutes of the game, they dead set switched off for fucking 40 minutes. All they wanted to do was it looked like they wanted to tackle and defend a fucking 4-point lead for the rest of the game. They've got no fucking attack.
Now I actually think about this. The more I think about it, no wonder Whiten just said, "Fuck this! I'm getting $1 million somewhere else."
And he managed to
move to Redcliffe and live on the water.
Didn't he? But
yeah, he did get another try, but and he was and that's when he picked up himself and decided, "Oh fuck, here we go again." Yeah. There's nothing like they play. Their 1 point of attack is Hudson Young.
Yeah,
the whole thing to do for 80 minutes is throw to Hudson Young, which who wasn't there. Who Frawley kicked back. Had a Luke Brooks left foot kicking display for most of the game. Seb Chris tries his ass off. I'm not going to knock him down. And so does Tomoko. Yeah, 100%. The rest of them just are there. They exist.
Tarpanay.
And Tarpanay is, again, still, sorry, yes.
But he should fuck off and go somewhere else.
Well, he'll be at the Chooks as soon as Jared retires, so that's fine. The rest of them, like... Whitehead, what does he add? What has he added for 2 years? Don't know. He whinges a lot. He's the best whinger in the game after Moses and Gutherson. Yeah. And Wiranara is fine. They started Starling, which gave us hope, but there's not a lot.
But then they still brought Wolford on, and he did fuck all.
Well, I don't know why he's... What does he add? When he's he doesn't add
especially
spark.
If he's coming on as a second.
To me, if you're a second, you've got to be a Cheese or a Starling, ironically. Or even, I don't mind even Simpkin off the bench this week.
They want to play him for 20 minutes. He plays 20 minutes at the start of the
Sonny
game.
Luke. Sorry, he's a better nudge. Sonny Luke was exposed a bit the last 2 weeks. But it offers nothing. Horsburgh's the hardest working forward outside of Tarpanay. Yeah. But they're just a team. They're 17 blokes that play football.
He had a bit of a crack too. But 3 forwards going forward in the middle of the field doesn't, when you've got nothing else happening outside of the 3 guys running through the middle of the field, it's pretty easy to shut down. Yeah. You just stack your middle up and
especially where now there aren't any, apart from possibly the Dragons, there aren't any weak middles anymore. No. Most of the middles can look after themselves now.
And the surprising thing for me was actually it was the Raiders who compressed their middle of the field.
Yeah.
Because when the Knights went wide, the space in between the 5'8", the centre, and the winger was like fucking 10 metres between blokes. Like you could have run 3 guys through those fucking holes, and they did.
And imagine an Origin winger being given all the time in the world. And Dane Gagai plays his best.
Gagai and Miller were just fucking playing with him on the edges. Like, there was so much space in between defenders out there. Like, they were so compressed in the middle of the field. It was like, oh, we dare you to go around us. You won't go around us. You won't go. Fucking yes, we will. Yeah. Oh, we're going to do it again. Wait a minute. There's Lachlan Miller's got a bit of pace. Gagai can push a bloke off. Oh, shit, there's another try.
And like, Bradman Best, he's a big boy.
Backed his way through the line. Marzu as well, bullied his way over.
Marzu in. He's, I think the last year was the third highest tackle.
They would have been better off putting extra blokes out wide and leaving the middles, the holes in the middle, because at least you know Tapane Papali can tackle.
Well, bizarre when you look at it and go, especially with Newcastle forward pack we're missing.
Go back and have a look at the highlights. You only need to watch the 5-minute highlights and you can see where Canberra lost this game. Yeah. Their defence out wide was fucking atrocious. Yeah. And a lot of it comes down to Harley Shields. I don't think he knew where he was or what he was doing, to be honest, while he was out there, because they just targeted him relentlessly and broke him open so many times. He might not be credited with missed tackles or whatever it is, but he was the reason that they were scoring tries on either side of him, to be honest. He just left so much space on either side that they're just not reading the attack that's coming at them at all.
Yeah.
And that probably has a bit to do with having a fullback back there that's been there for 4 games and really doesn't know how to marshal his troops. Comes back to the senior players in the team, the Whitens, the Tapanes, the Papalis, going, we don't need you in the middle of the field. Fuck off. Get out there. Like, we need you out there.
Yeah.
Like, where's the message coming from Ricky going, we're getting stripped on the right, on our left time and time again. Get blokes out there. Like...
Sorry, I just realised. So Madge is their defensive coach, right?
No, true. Absolutely is.
Well, that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, probably best left unsaid, to be honest.
But that just jarred right then. Wow. Huh. Anyway.
Remember when the Tigers used to get stripped for numbers week after week after week?
And especially when Ricky's the one sitting on the sideline. He sits on the sideline. Like, he's not going to...
And you overrule, if your defensive coach isn't working, you overrule him, don't you? You go, look, we're getting stripped on the left. Put an extra bloke out there.
Yeah.
Like, drop your second rower's got to go wider.
Yeah.
Halves got to go wider.
Yeah.
Leave the holes in the middle.
I'm not a first grade footballer, but surely you don't just, and obviously they do because that's how teams set up, but surely you should have options for a slide defence, an umbrella defence, and surely you fucking train more.
Well, at least the two.
Our defensive structure
the up and in from the wingers or the slide.
The slide.
Really, they're the two most effective.
In the Dolphins go, like Bennett goes to, we'll slide and we'll slide back and we'll keep.
They're the two most effective, or it's the shoot from the inside and hold on the edges, but.
Yeah. And it's bizarre. But I do want to... I have been Newcastle's biggest critic for a long time, and I want to commend every game they've turned up
this
year.
They look better in attack than they have for a long time.
Well, they've now got points of attack, which is ironic given they're missing their 1.4. Of course, but they've got Lockie Miller, who's actually scary to watch. If you're playing against him, you don't want him in space at all because he can go one way or another.
And his ball playing's really good. Yeah. I know it's mostly left to right.
It's his 11th or 12th first grade game.
Yeah.
And he throws fucking long balls. He steps people. He goes in when he needs to. He
hits the lead
ducks
runner.
And runs and goes a tuck. He
acceleration.
They've found something
footwork,
there. They've found something there. Tyson Gamble does his job and does it very well.
And he has done for
and
the 3
we'll
games
wrap
he's
Jackson
played.
Hastings because when your centres are the ones in control, he's the one that makes sure the balls are getting to where they need to be when they need to be, and he did very well this game.
Was his best game? Yeah.
I don't know if the stats reflect that, but he realised that. But he got clean service when needed to, and he's obviously a great. He is, and he's fortunately he was stuck with us last year. But in a team that has strike, he can be a great game controlling half, and that his job is to fucking get his all around. He's just a quarterback.
Yeah, we mentioned Tomoko and Chris. I thought they were very good. They were the best of the backs for Canberra. We already mentioned the forwards as well. Papali, Horsburgh were decent off the bench. Huira Naira was okay, but a bit of a problem in defence. And Young and Tapane were Canberra's best players by a long, long way. A couple of the backs we mentioned as well. The Newcastle blokes, they just had a field day. Best, Hastings, Gagai, Miller, Marzu, they just running amok.
Frizzell, space out
about to get the Frizzell. Yeah. We had Brayley, who probably had his best game for a year and a half, considering he sat most of the last year out, or all of last year out. and Fitzgibbon and Frizzell. Absolutely carved up on the edges of the Canberra ruck. Like, basically, once the ball got outside of the forwards for Canberra, they were in all sorts in defence. And they got picked apart by this Raiders team. I thought Miller probably deserved the 3 points. I thought he was instrumental in everything that was done from the Newcastle team. I either had Frizzell or probably Gagai for the 2. And then Tarpanay or Marzu for the 1.
I went 3 Miller, 2 Marzu, and either Tarpanay, Gagai, or Frizzell for the 1. So, fuck Canberra. Actually, but then I don't have an answer.
Frizzell or Gagai?
Actually, give it a Gagai, because I don't think I've ever given him a point.
Marzu the 2, yeah.
And 3 for Miller.
Gagai the 1. Righty, yeah.
No.
Yeah, Miller was easily the man of the match.
2 Marzu, 1 for Gagai. Yep. 40-8. The Sharks came out and completely right. You need to pee.
No, I'm good.
All right. My teeth can float for another 10
minutes.
No, keep going. No. Yeah, right. So 40-8, the Sharks steamrolled the Dragons in the second half, Barn. And,
absolutely, they did.
Tell us what the stats said.
2 tries to 7, 0 out of 2 conversions for the Dragons, 5 out of 7 for the Sharks, 1 out of 1 penalty attempts by Talakai, 27 out of 36 sets played, 34 out of 45, 490 plus running metres, 2 line breaks for the Dragons, 11 for the Sharks, 22 tackle busts to 39, 6 offloads to 11, 2 forced dropouts from both teams, no 40-20s, 331 tackles played, 320, 1 ruck infringement from both teams, 0 inside the 10s, 8 penalties conceded by the Dragons, 3 by the Sharks, 14 errors to 13. Laurie made 38 tackles, Teague Wilton made 40, Laurie also made 134 running metres, Kennedy with 180. Supercoach points, Hines with 180, Ramian with 120. 2 other Sharks before you got down to Jaden Sewer on 73.
Yeah, my biggest regret was that I put Teague Wilton into my same-game multi instead of Britain. Because I had Sewer and I had the other geek there.
I got this one, actually. I had Kennedy, Mulatalo, and Nikora at $10. So that wasn't a bad way to finish the round, to be honest.
We don't have much to talk about for the Dragons, so let's start with the cream of the croppy, Nico. Well, he came back and didn't miss a beat. Absolutely outstanding.
The first sort of 20 minutes, the Sharks couldn't get out of their own way. They just made error after error. It was a really nice cutout ball, obviously, to put Mulatalo down the sideline with a kick back inside for Kennedy to score the first try. And that was, a beautiful bit of footy. But Hunt replies with a dummy and a run off a ricochet to score for the Dragons. And then Sewer crashed over out wide. And I was a little bit concerned, to be honest, because the Sharks seemed to be just making error, and the Dragons were probably on top there for a 10-minute period.
Given how much, well, I'd at least talk about they're not quite A-grade.
Yeah, they haven't been gelling at all to start the year, and it looked like it was going to be a similar sort of thing. They weren't playing badly, but they're just making inopportune errors at very bad times, handing the ball over on the halfway or on the Dragons' 40-metre line, and it made it a lot easier for the Dragons to get down the other end of the field. But, after that, the Sharks just scored some beautiful tries. The little tap-on from Moylan, the set-up... Talakai put Mulatalo down for a try. Little short ball for Nikora to score off Hines. Another cutout out to the edge there for Ramian. Oh, sorry, the Nikora short ball, and then Nikora went through the line, the short ball to Hines, and then Hines with an offload back to Ramian to score. Then there was a cutout pass to the edge for Katoa to score. And, I was excited as a good Christian boy on his wedding day. I was up and about there with the 20 minutes to go in this game.
Yeah, good 90 seconds in you, Barney.
A good 90 seconds in me. That's about all I got, to be honest. But there was and then Hines went off for the last 10 minutes, and the Sharks just sort of went through the motions for that last 10 minutes of this game. But some of those passes that he put on, the cutout just left to right and right to left.
Just his ability to...
He's just competitive.
He has his own time and space.
He creates it for himself. Yeah.
So when he doesn't have it, he runs, and in doing, like we spoke about an hour and a half ago, when he creates for himself because he'll run and he's quick enough to get through.
And he'll dig towards the line, and then as soon as he gets some interest, he'll go sideways. Yeah. And then look for the player that's coming with a straight line into a hole, or throw it out the back for somebody else, or cut out to the winger, and they'll go through. But
so we've seen him step out twice this year. He's put on, 180
man of the match
here.
Performances.
And he was in the
Indigenous All-Stars
game where he made Brent Naden and someone else look like world beaters just by camping outside him. Surely we're now at the stage where he has to be New South Wales 5'8". It seems almost madness not to now if Penrith keep going in the trajectory they're on. And I'm sure Penrith fans... But surely Penrith fans can't argue it either.
You wouldn't think so. Somebody
if he's not, he will be 14.
But it's just that, again, that awareness and that little bit of extra pace where he already he's running the line to set up to be on the outside of somebody to begin with.
Yeah.
So if they don't follow him and stay in front of him, he's already on their outside. So he can then step or continue on his run and promote his outside players.
Yeah.
But if they do follow him and there's a lazy inside defender, there's a space back on the inside. And then if he's got support... He just saw every time he had the ball, he had supports on both sides.
Yeah,
there was a runner on both sides. There was the lead runner on his right, and there was generally someone trailing back on his inside.
Yeah,
which that would help any half in the game.
Absolutely.
If your team's up and around and following you around, because I know there's going to be opportunities on both sides of the ball, and you've got options on both sides of the ball, it just makes the defence just gets into a catatonic state where they don't know what's happening.
Like under 12 stuff.
Absolutely.
If Wally Shitbags, the best 5'8" in the comp goes, you everyone else follow him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something's going to happen.
And it's as simple as the fullback trails him.
In this day and age, called Wally, that'd be...
Don't do it. You get yourself in trouble. But it's as simple as if the 5'8" or your halfback's taken the line...
Wally Shitbags.
The back rower drops back inside, which creates an opportunity on the inside.
Yeah.
Then you've got your fullback trailing as well, and then you've got your wingers on the outside.
Ollie Shitbags, the most popular name in Australia. Anyway.
You've instantly then got three different opportunities for your ball player to play at, and then he's also got the option to dummy and run. So there's four different options being created by three players.
Yeah.
And it just pulls defensive lines apart.
And everyone else gets it around him. It's beautiful to watch. It's very, at their best, it's very good to watch. We hadn't seen it yet, but hey, they're back, so that's cool. Up tempo is great, and they've still got Workhorse McGuinness up their sleeve. They've still got blokes there if they need them, but they're not using them. They get Trindle back this week too, which whatever that means. He'll sit on the bench
14,
for a bit.
I would imagine, and probably.
But the time's got to come where I assume he's going to end up at 6. Or vice versa. It's a scary thought.
I've said it for a while. Everyone knows my thoughts on Moylan. If you've been listening to this for more than a couple of shows, you know what I think of Moylan. While he does offer a really nice piece of brilliance every now and then, it's just not consistent enough, and his defence is pretty poor. So, but what do you do?
Bubba Kennedy good again. He was
fantastic.
And we talk about the 2, 3, 4 players. He's the one. Through the middle,
with that trailing lead line back through the middle, or he's on the outside with that sweeping run. He's always involved in the attack that the Sharks put up. Whether he gets used or not, it's a different option. And then they hit the wingers, who are probably two of the best finishing wingers in the comp. Yeah. If you give them a one-on-one with their opposition, they're probably going to score.
They're going high, they're going over, they're going under, they're scoring.
They're going around, and it's more than a 50-50 proposition where most sides have maybe got a 50-50 proposition. The Sharks are probably 70-30 where they're going to score.
And actually, the ones we hadn't really mentioned, but where they flood not, but Hamanueli was good, and
made a couple of errors again, as he does.
Yeah, but he did some tough stuff. And
Nikora was fantastic again, just hitting that courageous line that he just always straight up 100% runs that line, whether he gets hit or not. Yeah. Or whether the defence puts a shot on him, whether he gets the ball, I think he knows he's just always there.
He knows that he might get hammered 3 times, but the 4th time
he's going to cruise through for the try.
Mine all the benches on, and you will just wander over.
Jack Bird off the bench confused me. I don't know why they played him off the bench, to be honest. The Dragons. do love beating the Dragons in the Derby game, which has been
sometimes it's a slog,
consistent
isn't it?
thing recently. But
what upside is there for the Dragons?
Well, their back line had little to no impact in the game. Their bench was okay. As I said, Bird astounded me, to be honest, because I think he's been one of their better attacking threats and has sort of been going pretty well with Sullivan as well. They've been working together, and to play him off the bench really confused me. Hunt tried hard, he always will. Laurie's probably their shining light at the moment. Jaden Sewer, I thought he had a really good performance in this one.
Yep.
Was easily their best, but then you look out to blokes like Lomax, who had an absolute shocker in this game. Ravalawa really wasn't involved that much, apart from a couple of really nice shots. He put on 2 back-to-back absolute massive hits on Finucane and somebody, I think it might have been Mulatalo, where he just absolutely ironed him out. But I think Dale got him back later in the game.
Lomax has gone from being an Origin winger 2 years ago, Origin centre in the conversation, to now this club has dragged him down. His next contract may well be in England.
And he was an 80 and 90% kicker too, and now he's struggling to...
Realistically, his next contract could be for Salford or someone. Because, there's always someone taking him, but he could go there and be a man of steel and be a superstar. He's now faffing here, and I think it's on a long-term deal. Like, what upside is there for the Dragons? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty confused myself, to be honest.
And already Hook's apparently not getting the arse, but getting the arse.
Sloan wasn't really involved. He apparently was told at the back end of last year. So I don't know why you don't just do it in the off season. But
why? Yeah, maybe they didn't have an answer. Whether it's Riles or whether it's well, the one I read today was somewhere suggested that it'd be Hasler and Hornby.
Okay. Yeah.
There's talent there, and I think they've got the second biggest nursery. After
I think there's talk of
Hornby and Varels. Hornby, Flanagan. I think it was Hasler. Flanagan's out. I don't know if you'd want to do it.
Flanagan's at Manly, but
yes, he's there. But he's got in his contract he can take up head role. Well, they'd want to. You'd probably want to. You'd only say, "I'll do it. Give me 5 years," which fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough. And then I think I saw Des and Hornby as a combo, like a mentoring combo, and then Riles is the big one, and lots of raps on Riles. But I don't know where they're going to head. It's obviously not going to be Hook, so I don't know. Like, realistically, it's going to be them and the Tigers in the conversation with a spoon. And
you got Laurie and Sewer there, who are blokes who can score points and create problems in the middle of the field. Hunt is Ben Hunt. Like, he will create opportunities. Who would you tip next week
if the Tigers played the Dragons?
That's a good question. Yeah. That's a really good question.
You know what I mean? Like, if you line them up,
and 12-ball draw.
It's funny because I've tipped Dragons, but I've tipped Dragons for the spoon. But just thinking about, like, the Warriors are now nearly a borderline top 18. Dolphins never were. Who are the teams that suck?
Yeah. Tigers and Dragons at the moment.
Dragons.
Newcastle could slip away, but they've been heaps better than what we expected.
And it always happens where the over-effort teams always don't finish. Bulldogs can end up bottom 4 here.
Depending on Foreign and AJ, Titans could possibly slip. And Dogs, they're not looking great.
Dogs can end up bottom 3 or 4 here. And Canberra.
Canberra
in the discussion,
are on the slide. I'm fucking filthy we lost to them last week, to be honest. Sharks should be 3-1. You're going into next week, but seriously, how the fuck we lost to the Raiders last week?
But it's like, to me, they're the bottom 4. Like, now, one of them will get in a run because it always happens. But I don't think it'll be Canberra. I don't think it'll be Dragons. It could be Tigers, and it could be
Titans or Newcastle.
So I think, or Bulldogs could, but I don't think. I think Bulldogs are exposed now. So
a little bit, yeah. They're looking a bit soft in the middle, the Bulldogs, to be honest.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't know what didn't Pangai Jr. have a calf at the start of the year?
But now it's indefinite. Gus tweeted
snap
it's
it off his leg or something.
Which is funny. It was funny today. Gus tweeted he's out indefinitely, and someone wrote he's indefinite, and someone wrote back, so that means he's indefinitely next week. It popped me anyway.
He fucking should be in, absolutely.
But now he's still another month away. So
the Sharks starting 13 were all good. Rudolph and Brayley, I thought were pretty good. Wilton and Nakora were standouts. Mulatano and Ramian were the best of their back five, but it was the Nico show.
Yeah. I think Nico's getting 3. He might get 6.
He better get 3.
If he was even if someone 6 a bit. So Nico 3, Britton 2, and take maybe Wilton or Mulatalo.
I had Ramian, just a couple of tries.
Actually, we didn't speak a lot, but he was always dangerous. Yeah. He was his footwork was tremendous here. Probably could have scored a couple himself as well, extra. Yeah, go Ramian 1. Why not?
No
all right. Have we got here we go. A pot plant.
My pot plant this week was actually Brent Naden from the Tigers. The fact that he played 71 minutes, I know he got hooked at the back end of the game, but he played 71 minutes and had 3 runs.
Yeah.
And I think he only made 4 or 5 tackles, considering he'd be one of their best. I think I did hear rumours that he came into the game with an injury, whether it be a leg injury, but which doesn't help, and obviously probably doesn't help your performance. But 3 runs out of your best attacking centre in a game of 71 minutes. It's yeah.
I had given obviously it's boring when I take it as read that the Tigers are like Luke Brooks is getting a pot plant, so I'm going to go with Elliot Whitehead. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what he actually adds to anything down there anymore, apart from complaining well.
And he does seem to get in the way a bit with the attacking.
Yeah, so I'm going to get Whitehead.
Not that there's much going on there.
Slap. And obviously there was some Dragons that got off lightly just then. Our slap. I usually give it to the officials in the Manly game.
Yeah.
Actually, across the board, the
Mine
Manly
was
game.
The officials for the weekend.
For the weekend,
yeah.
I think it's lucky it was such a good weekend of footy, because otherwise we'd be. And we've prided ourselves from not.
We go out of our way not to mention the referees, but this was the worst weekend of refereeing decisions that I've seen. It's just the consistency. That's all that people want. As we mentioned, the obstructions, the forward passes. Forward pass was nowhere near it. The obstruction is an obstruction every day of the week, and then you don't call it, but then you call the exact same play in the next game as an obstruction, or the game before as an obstruction.
Just like I said, the Munster forward pass that wasn't called, the man that was, the scrum feed that wasn't, but then the South team was. Just not consistent, and had been getting there, and they'd
been pretty good up until this weekend, to be honest. But I'm pretty sure there was 1 or 2 very questionable decisions in every game this weekend, which is just
especially in a comp going as good as this is, you don't need it.
No,
you got a salute.
You know who it is.
Me too. Not bad. New South Wales 6.
Yeah, absolutely. To come back from a calf injury, and he showed no signs of not wanting to get involved or being worried about the calf. Obviously, they've timed it well to bring him back. He ended up going off with a bit of a tight groin, apparently. So whether that comes to the fore in the next couple of weeks, we'll see what's happened there. But I think it was just
it
was a precautionary thing anyway. To be honest,
as Ennis likes to say, they can put the Ferrari in the garage.
Park the Ferrari in the garage. But there wasn't a better performance this weekend, and he was head and shoulders above any other performance this weekend.
There indeed was not, and I'm going to agree with you. That's it. Footy and Frothies. Well done, you and I. Like to stare in your eyes, Barn. It's nice. Our thoughts with the Oracle, who's apparently lost his laptop or something. I don't know. Not here. So, bye. Talk to everyone soon. We've got a preview to get stuck in news. So, check out rugbyleaguemerch.com.au. Check out PCTC on Facebook and Instagram for our tipping comp partners. And obviously, like and subscribe us on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes Radio, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and all the other good stuff. Bye.